Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my complete YouTube video editing masterclass. This is your one-stop shop guide to going from a complete noob who's never even opened a video editing software to pumping out high-quality YouTube videos that retain people and get views. And this masterclass is the real deal. There's no full paid course below. There's no school group to learn more advanced stuff. This is all the key fundamental video editing knowledge that'll help you put out some pretty damn good quality videos. We're covering everything from where to get copyright-free clips, sound effects, music to use in your videos, what editing software to use. Spoiler alert, it's free. How to use AI to get stuff done faster, and even a lesson where I literally sit down and edit an entire real YouTube video that's actually going live from start to finish and explain the decisions I'm making and edits I'm doing. But I also believe that knowledge without execution is useless. So on top of that, down below, I'm going to link to a completely free Discord server just for people going through my YouTube courses, where you can connect with other like-minded people and actually get feedback on your edits. So I'm super pumped to get into this. The last thing I'll say real quick though is obviously this took a lot of time and effort to pull together, and it wouldn't have been possible for me to do that and give this all for free if it wasn't for the sponsor of this video, Opus Clip. If you're making long form videos and want to automatically repurpose them, Opus Clip uses AI to automatically find the best moments in your video, clip them into shorts, add captions, add edits, and then even publish them directly to YouTube from their platforms. And we'll talk a bit more about them later. The last thing I'll say though, everything I'm going to show you in this is going to be step by step. I'm not just going to tell you to do things, I'm actually going to show you exactly how to do them. But that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Anything worth doing is hard. Just like going to the gym. Intellectually, you might know the right technique. You might know the exercise you need to do. But if you don't actually commit and go and do it and put in the reps, all that knowledge is useless. So my ask to you right now is to commit to making this work. Commit to this video, commit to learning how to be a video editor if this is what you really want to do, because it can help you grow your own YouTube channel, maybe get other YouTubers as clients, or maybe you want to work as a video editor for other YouTubers, whatever it is. I really believe if you can nail video editing that actually retains people, the way the world's going right now, regardless of what happens, your skills are going to be in high demand. So with all that being said though, I'm going to shut up now. Hope you enjoy the content. First thing you're going to need to do, if you don't already have a video editing program, if you're using something like Premiere or one of the other common editing programs around, you'll still roughly be able to follow along with these tutorials. But I want to show you first and foremost what I think is the best free video editing software around. And we're talking best as in this is good enough to be used by professionals. Many professionals do use this even though it's free. And it's called DaVinci Resolve. So what you're going to do, we're going to go to Google, and what you're just going to type in is DaVinci Resolve. And then what you're going to click on is the link from DaVinci Resolve by Blackmagic Design. Now at the moment, as of recording this, DaVinci Resolve 19 is the latest sort of DaVinci out there. However, in the future, I'm pretty sure DaVinci Resolve 20 is going to be releasing soon, and then they go 21, 22. They usually every year or 6 months or so, they're going to release a new DaVinci Resolve, like a new version of it. But the good news is, even if you're watching this in the future, DaVinci Resolve is very similar. I've been using this since DaVinci Resolve like 15, I think, and every time a new one comes out, like I don't really have to relearn anything. All the buttons are the same. They're all in similar places. Like if there are changes, it's really minor changes. Like the button style looks slightly different, or maybe it was moved from like the left of the screen to the right of the screen, something like that. So even if you're using a future version of this, you will be able to follow along. Anyway, so you're going to click into DaVinci Resolve and you're going to scroll down and you're going to click on free download. I can't believe this is free. It's insane. And the one you're going to select is the one on the left, and then just select whatever option suits you best. So when you click on it, you'll be given a form like so that you'll be able to fill out. And once you fill out the form, you'll just hit register and download, and DaVinci Resolve will start downloading. Now, I've already done this. My Resolve is downloading here, as you can see. Once that's downloaded, I'm going to show you how to actually install it, and then we'll look at setting it up. So DaVinci Resolve is downloaded as a zip file. Now, what we're going to do is on Windows, I'm just going to right click and I'm going to go to 7-zip and I'm going to extract files. However you extract files is okay. And I'm just going to extract it to this folder like so. All right, so what we're going to do, come in here right now, and then we have the DaVinci Resolve application. So we're just going to double click on that and it's going to extract for us. All right, what we're gonna see now is this option pop up. What you're gonna do is just leave it on default. Don't feel like you need to check a Fairlight, just leave it on default. We're gonna hit install. This window will pop up here and we're just gonna hit next, accept the license, next, next, and install. All right, so now it's done. We're just going to hit finish and hit OK. And now on your computer, you can see that DaVinci Resolve has been installed. So we're just going to double click on this guy. So we're going to hit continue on this guy when it pops up. And we're going to hit start here. Sometimes it'll ask you if you want a quick start or not quick start. I would just select the not quick start option and just open it manually. I'm going to hit allow access. All right, we'll bring it across here. And now DaVinci Resolve 19 has loaded up. The first thing it's going to load is this window, which will show you all of the projects that you currently worked on. So DaVinci has remembered some of my past projects that I've edited here, and you can see them all here, but your version is not going to have any of these. It's just going to have one blank project called Untitled Project. But that's okay, because what we're going to be doing now is creating new projects for you to edit in. So going to come down to new project, click on this button, then you can name it. So we're just going to go test project, hit create, and now we're going to open up DaVinci. Now this is going to look very overwhelming and scary at first. I remember feeling super overwhelmed when I first jumped into something like this, but it's okay. We're going to go through everything step by step, and it's all going to make a lot of sense soon. So the first thing you're going to want to do is actually go down to the bottom here, and we're going to go to the edit tab, because we're going to be editing videos, and your tab is going to change and look a little something like this. Now my edit tab actually looks a little bit different to what your default one will, because I've actually customized it a tad, but let me show you what it's going to look like on default. And if you've used DaVinci Resolve and you want to follow along step by step with this tutorial, like click by click, what you can do is go to workspace and then come down to reset UI layout and click on that, and it's going to reset it back to the default UI layout, which looks like this. So let's do a quick tour. On the left hand side here, this space is called our media pool. This is going to be where we'll store the footage, video files, audio files, images, etc. that we are going to edit with. Over here on a little bit to the right of that, we're going to see a black sort of box with some play buttons down here. This is your preview window for your media pool. So when you add videos and clips into here, you're going to be able to watch them and preview them with this window. The window on the right is going to be your preview window for the actual editing that you're doing. So the one on the left here is just going to show you like media that you could potentially edit. The one on the right is going to show you the video that you're actually editing. And then down the bottom here, the part where you're going to be spending a lot of time is your timeline. This is going to be where you're actually going to be able to see the footage that you're editing and apply the edits and stuff to it. And again, if that sounds overwhelming, don't worry, we're going to walk through all of this step by step. And by the end of this, you're going to be an absolute master who creates high retention videos that will get a lot of views. So let's get some footage to actually edit. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up a folder and I'm going to drag some footage. I'm just going to drop it inside of my media pool like this. So now what you can see is I have this thing inside my media pool. And if I hover over it, I can preview it in my preview window that we just talked about. And I can actually watch it. If I double click on this and then come over here and hit this play button, you can see that I'm actually talking and things are actually going on in here, right? And I can scroll around here and you can see all the different things changing. Now, you can add a bunch of different things, a whole heap of media in here. And then when you're ready to actually start editing, what you're going to do is you're going to grab the media. So click on it and then click and drag it down here into your timeline. So now our media is inside of our timeline and we can actually start doing some cool edits to it. Now, one quick thing I do want to highlight is for some people, if you have a slightly slower computer, this is where DaVinci is going to start lagging a bit for you. So one thing that I like to do, or so one thing you can do to sort of make it less laggy when you're moving around your timeline playing back video, is go to playback, then go to timeline and playback resolution, and you can go down to half or quarter. What that's going to do is just going to make your footage here look like half quality or like quarter quality. So it's going to look a bit blurry, a little bit gross, but when you actually render the video and export it, it's going to go back to full quality. So essentially you'll be editing it and it'll look low quality, but then when you export it, it'll go back to high quality just to make your machine a little bit faster. Anyway, so we've got our footage now. Now what I want to show you real quick is just how to customize this view, because some of you might have smaller screens, larger screens. You might want to adjust how things look. So whenever you hover over an edge of sort of like a thing, you'll see these like arrow lines. What you can do, you can click and drag and you can like make things smaller and larger. So let's, for example, say I wanted to make my timeline down here bigger so I can see more of it. I could grab it and drag it up. Now my preview window is going to be smaller and my timeline is going to be larger, right? Obviously I don't like that, so I'm going to bring that down. The other thing you can do is you can turn things off and on by clicking on them. So anything that's kind of highlighted like this is turned on. So what you can see right now is my media pool is turned on because I was using it. But once I've used my media pool, if I've added in all my media and dragged it into my timeline, I can just come up here and click on this. It's going to remove it so I can have more space to do my editing. And then if I want to go back and grab more clips, I can come to my media pool and click on that. That's going to be the same for every sort of effect or tab or whatever we open up inside of DaVinci. So later we'll talk more about these, but if I go to the effects tab or the index, or I want to open up the inspector, like I click on these, it's going to open them all, and then I can give myself more space by clicking on them again and just hiding them. So you can muck around with that, get this looking the way you want. And when it's looking the way you want, I'm just going to bring it back to the default just so it's simpler for you guys. Let's actually start playing around with some footage. So as we mentioned, the footage is in our timeline down here. Now we can play this footage and watch it back by going over to the preview window on the right hand side here and then hitting the play button. And you can also use this button here to like drag around the video, right? To navigate around it. However, most commonly, if you're going to navigate around your timelines, so like skip to a later part in the video or move to a certain part of the video so you can make a cut there or an edit, you're actually going to use your playhead. So you see this like red line thing down here? That is your playhead. And if you click on these little like ruler kind of looking things like this, you can see your playhead jumps to different places. Also, if I hit play on this video, you can see my playhead gradually moves. Basically, the playhead's showing you what part of the video you're currently at. So let's say I wanted to skip to, 1 minute 30. I can just click up here, my playhead's gonna jump there, and now I'm at 1 minute 30. Now, something else you might notice here, right? If I grab my playhead and I drag, you can see that I have a lot of footage here that isn't showing up just because it doesn't actually fit into the screen. So what you can do is come up here to this little plus and minus button, click minus, 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 and I can zoom all the way out. I can see my entire video just inside of my timeline. And if I want to make a particular edit at a certain point and I want to like zoom in on that point, I'm just going to select that point or find that point with my playhead. Let's say it's like halfway through the video, and I can just hit the plus button and zoom in on that particular part of the video. So that's how to install DaVinci, create a new project, add your footage, customize your workspace, and then actually navigate around your timeline so you can actually start editing. Now what we're going to do is look at how to actually start making edits. Now we know how to sort of navigate this whole timeline situation. So the most common thing in editing that you'll want to do is cutting, removing parts of a video. And cutting in DaVinci Resolve is quite simple. So let's say, for example, I'm going to go right to the beginning of my timeline. I can also use this little play bar here to navigate around, so I can drag that down. Let's have a look at this real quick. So I'm going to zoom in down here on my audio track, and I can click and drag and make this bigger as well so it's easy to see. Remember we talked earlier about clicking and dragging. Can you see how these waveforms here that represent sound, represent me talking in this particular video that we're editing? Can you see how the waveforms only start like here, and in the beginning of the video there's like 2 frames of silence? I might actually want to remove that silence so that we get straight into the video, and like as soon as people click on it, I'm talking immediately as opposed to them having to wait like 2 frames. So what I would do is I can just move my playhead to that particular location that I want to make a cut, and then I'm going to come here to this little toolbar here, and I'm going to click on the razor tool. So I'm going to click on that, and what I do, you can see I can actually move my razor around it, and it creates like a little mini playhead. And when I click, it's actually going to make, and if I come back here and click on my arrow one just so I can navigate around my timeline again, you're gonna see it's like making this like little line through the footage. What that shows is that the footage has currently been cut. It's been separated into 2 different pieces. I've grabbed my arrow tool again. I could grab this part of the footage by clicking on it, actually drag it, and now you can see that I have 2 separate pieces of footage on my timeline. Now, as we talked about, I'm making this cut so I can separate the intro from the rest of the footage so I can delete it because there's a silence here that is unnecessary. So I'm going to click on this, we can right click, and then I can just hit delete selected, and it's going to delete it. Then I just click on my main video footage and drag it to the beginning, and now you can see that I've deleted, I've cut that little bit of silence at the beginning of my video, and now my video starts immediately as I'm talking. I am going to roast your thumbnails. And awesome. But you can actually do a lot more than just cut off the beginning or end of your video. You can cut out segments within your video. So let's scroll out for a second. Let's zoom out using these buttons. You can see there's like a patch of silence right here. Do you see that right there? That patch of silence might be there intentionally, but it most likely is like I've forgotten what I'm saying. So let's zoom in and actually have a listen to this and apply them regardless. So there's that big patch of silence here because I'm an idiot and I forgot what I was saying. So that obviously looks really bad in the video, and we're gonna actually want to cut that out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come grab my razor tool again, click on that, and I'm going to move it to the beginning of where I stop talking, which is here. I'm going to make a cut, and I'm going to move it to the beginning of where I start talking again. It's about here, make a cut, and now you can see I've separated this silence part, this part of footage I don't want. I'm going to right click on it, delete selected, and now you can see that I have removed that section of video from my footage. All I have to do now is I'm going to click on this part to the right, I'm going to drag it to the right until it like snaps, and now I've deleted that silence and people won't actually be able to see it, and it's just going to skip over. And apply them regardless. So, you see that? Pretty cool, hey? Cutting is the most fundamental thing you're going to be doing in editing. You're going to be removing certain boring or unneeded parts of your footage and cleaning up your video for the viewer. There is another way though to sort of remove footage at the end or beginning of a clip that a lot of us use all the time. So let's, for example, go to the very end of this video. So I'm going to zoom out, I'm going to go here, I'm going to zoom all the way in. Let's say we wanted to remove this whole section of video here. Now I could just come here, grab the razor tool, cut it, then I could right click on this and then go delete selected. I don't want to actually do that though, so I'm going to go Control Z to undo what I just did, and Control Z again to undo things. Go back to my arrow tool here. What I could do instead, because every time you have to make a cut, or at the moment, like the basic way we're doing it, is you have to come and select the razor tool and then make a click, right? That's like additional clicks. An easier way to do it is you can grab your arrow tool, just click and hover near the edge of the clip. Can you see how it makes these little like icons? And I'm gonna click and drag it in, like so. And what you can see is it's actually just cut it off, essentially. So it's just made it easier. Now I don't have to click and delete and click and cut. I can just drag it and sort of remove it and make my time shorter or longer. And I can do the same thing. I can drag it out, I can drag it in, I can drag it so that it's only showing the parts of the footage I actually want it to show. One thing you might want to do though, when you're making your cuts, is to make them less harsh, less obvious. Add some sort of transition in between them so it just feels a little bit less janky. Easy way to do that. Let's go back to this cut we made at the beginning of the video. We're going to zoom in on this guy, and what you can see, oh, I've lost it. Here it is. Now, if I zoom in, what you can see, this cut doesn't actually roasting. You'll be able to take these principles and apply them regardless. So let's go over this channel. So what I could do here is if I hover over this clip, you can see on the right hand side, there's like a little white icon. I can grab this, click and drag it back, and let's drag it back to say like 20. And I can go to the other clip and click and drag this to 20 as well. And what that's going to do now is when we play this video, there's going to be like a fade in and fade out in between these clips. Principles and apply them regardless. So that fade in wasn't really necessary for this particular video because I was just cutting out a little portion of silence. It'd probably make it too obvious that we're making a cut. But if you, for example, recorded an intro clip for your video and then you have your actual video, you might want to do like a fade in and out. You might want to do like a transition between your intro clip and your actual video, because just doing like what they call like a jump cut, so literally just like a cut like this, is going to feel a little bit harsh. And this is really useful when it comes to audio, because often if you're cutting out parts of your video, the audio is going to sound really weird, really janky in between your cuts. So the way you smooth that out is very similar to what we just talked about. You can hover over this audio clip, drag this in, and then hover over this one and drag that in as well. And we're going to have the audio that's going to fade in and fade out just like the video did. Now, those are really basic fade transitions, but there are some more advanced transitions you can learn. So I'm going to show you one right now. Come over here, grab our razor tool. I'm going to make a cut like right here, and I'm going to make a cut like back here. And then we're going to delete this middle portion of video. So I'm going to come delete selected, drag these together. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to show like a sort of more harsh transition. So if we have a look at this video, so again, we're looking in the preview window up here, you can see that it's kind of like on this screen and then it changes, right? So it's very harsh because it like jumps to like this random portion of the screen. It goes from showing the channel, homepage and banner and me looking at the camera to like 1 second later, bam, me not looking at the camera. There's like a red box on the screen. There's like a completely different set of footage. So we might want to transition between that a little bit more smoothly, and we might want to do it in a slightly more fancy way than just dragging these handles to do like a fade in, fade out. The way you can do that is you're going to come up to the left hand side, click on the effects library, and then down here in toolbox, we're actually going to have a bunch of different transitions. So I can go to click here, video transitions, and let's do something kind of interesting. So let's do like a dip to color dissolve. So we'll click on this, we'll drag it over our cut, and this little white box is going to appear over top of our cut. We're going to let go. And now in between this cut, there's going to be like a little transition. So watch up the top right is basically, well, So it dipped to black and white color, which is actually not what we want. I'm actually going to undo that and find another one. So let's go down here, for example, to iris, just because these are transitions you're probably never going to want to use, but it's going to make it really obvious what a transition does for the sake of this tutorial. So let's grab like a cross iris. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to drag it over our cut like so, let go. And now we've got this like little white rectangle over our cut. What that's going to look like is going to add this like cross iris transition between these two clips. So let me play this and watch the preview window. Here is basically, well, do you see that like cross transition into the next clip? It looks a little bit gross. You would probably never actually use that transition in a video, but I just wanted to show you that one because it's really obvious to show you what a transition would do. Maybe a nicer transition you could use, for example, would be like a blur dissolve. So let me click on this thing. I'm going to right click on it. And I'm just going to delete this transition and let me grab like a blur dissolve and drag that over my clip. And now let's have a look what that looks like. On a crappy video idea is basically, well, you see it did like a blur dissolve into the next clip. Kind of cool, right? And you can also do the same thing with your audio. So you can come into audio transitions and you could do a crossfade at 3 decibels, for example, which is just going to make the audio blend a little bit more seamlessly into itself. So I'm going to click on that, drag it over the audio, and now our audio is going to fade in and fade out a little bit less harshly. Idea is basically, well, most kills in Modern Warfare. Kind of cool, right? Now, one thing you can do, kind of similar to how we were dragging handles before around the effects, is we can actually drag our transitions to make them longer and shorter. So this transition right now is pretty quick if we play it. Is basically, well, let's say we wanted it to take a really long time. I could hover over the edge of it, click and drag them out, and now it's going to be a really long blur dissolve. Watch this. Title and thumbnail. Yeah. On a crappy video idea is basically YouTube equivalent of polishing. Most kills in Modern Warfare. Right, kind of gross. Something you might want to do though is actually make it a little bit shorter. So I can click and drag, make this really quick. So something just like in here. And now let's listen to what this sounds like, or watch what it sounds like. Watch what it looks like. Third time lucky. Is basically, well, most... There we go. So that's how we can start doing basic cuts and then transitioning between those cuts a little bit more smoothly. Last thing I want to show you before I end this particular part of the video is I need to show you how to actually save your project so you don't lose your progress. So you're going to come up to File here, then come down to Save Project, and just hit that. And now all of the edits that you've made on this particular video are going to be saved. You can close down DaVinci, open it up again later, and you're going to see our test project in our project window. Actually, let me show you. I'm going to close this. So if I close DaVinci, now I've opened it up again, you're going to see the project window you might remember from earlier, and you can see right here, test project, which is the project we're just working on. I can double click on that, and you can see it loads up my project, my timeline, the editing footage I just did, the cuts and transitions we just made. So you can basically close your project, come back so I can start exactly where I left off. And so the last thing I'll say before we end this is make sure you always save your project. I can't tell you how many times I've accidentally closed my computer or accidentally closed a program or my computer has crashed or whatever and I haven't saved my project and I've lost hours and hours of work. It literally makes you want to save your project, please. All right, so that's it for this one. Download DaVinci, have a play around with all the things I just showed you, start editing some videos, and then when you've mastered that stuff, we'll move on to some more advanced techniques. So I want to talk about syncing and linking. We've talked about basic cutting, but now let's talk about how we can disguise our cuts even further, especially if you've got like a voiceover or something like that. So let me show you, there's this bit of footage here where I'm mining a tree. I can't figure out how to run in this stupid game, so I'm walking around like a numpty. All right, forward, come on. So there's like a pause in here. I'm mining the tree, then I go silence, then all right, forward. Now that silence doesn't really need to be there. The problem is if we just used our razor tool and just cut that out, it's going to kind of be harsh, right? Because it's going to look like this. Let's go through it frame by frame. So you can see as I'm going in slow motion, it's mining the tree, bam, it like just kind of teleports, right? So it's like a really kind of rough, harsh cut. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut the audio to remove the silence, but we're not going to cut the video. So let me show you how to do that. So let's go back and undo all of what we just did. Now let's like separate this section of our video. So I'm just going to like separate there and like cut here. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select these two clips now, right click, and then I'm just going to go to link clips and turn the check mark off. What this is gonna do is, in the past, if I just click on this video, grab it and drag it, the audio and the video move with me. So I'm gonna come in here and let's have a look at this portion of audio that we wanted to remove. Now that we've unlinked this, you can see I can click on my video and my audio doesn't select. I can click on my audio and my video doesn't select. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab my razor tool and I come down to just my audio. I'm gonna click here, and what you can see, it's made a cut, but it's left my video uncut. Click on this, delete this, then grab my audio, drag it in to join it together, and then I'm just gonna trim off this last bit of video. I could actually just grab this and just drag it in like that. Now, if we watch this video back, I can't figure out how to run in this stupid game, so I'm walking around like a numpty. All right, forward, come on. You can see that I removed the bit of silence in the audio track, so I just kind of kept talking, but on the screen, on my video, because it wasn't cut, you can't really tell I've actually done some manipulation of audio here. And that's one of the reasons why it's so useful to record every little bit of media, whether it's your face cam or your video, or your desktop background audio, your mic audio, your friend's audio in separate tracks. And now that I've done that, if I wanted to link these back up together, I just click and drag them all, right click, hit link clips. And now if I click and drag these, they're gonna all come together. So there are a ton of different use cases for this, but getting your head around linking and unlinking clips, especially when we're recording audio that has multiple different tracks, linking and unlinking becomes very, very useful. All right, so we've learned some pretty cool fundamental editing techniques that will allow us to manipulate our video pretty substantially. However, the more clicks you have to make in your timeline to make a certain edit, the more time it's gonna take you to edit. If it takes you a bunch of clicks, so if I have to like select a clip, come up, click on the razor tool, cut, then right click, then hit delete. If I'm making hundreds of cuts in my video, that adds up to hundreds and hundreds of clicks. So something you wanna do in editing is try to reduce the number of clicks you have to make, and a great way to do that is with keyboard shortcuts. So I want to show you some cool keyboard shortcuts to really speed up some of the editing tricks we've learned so far that I use all the time. So the first one is navigating around the timeline. So we've been using the minus and plus buttons to do that so far. But something that's really cool is if you hold Alt or Option on your keyboard and then scroll in or out, you can just really easily scroll in and out on your timeline like that. And really quickly, I can scroll out and then zoom in on this, and then I can zoom out there, come down here, zoom in here. Really, really cool. Use it all the time. Now, another thing I want to show you is if you want to play your video, instead of coming up in here and have to click play and stop, you can just hit spacebar. So I hit spacebar, video starts playing, hit spacebar again, it stops. Another really cool thing that I love is sometimes clicking and dragging your playhead around, you can't actually get the exact precision that you want. So you can use keyboard shortcuts to move your playhead frame by frame. So you can use arrow keys, or on my keyboard, it's actually set up with some hotkeys to use W and E. So if I hit these, if I hit the left arrow key, because I've set up custom keyboard shortcuts, it's W, I can hit it once, it moves the playhead one frame. Another one frame. Another one frame. I can hit it multiple times, move it multiple frames, and I can do the same with the right arrow key, or again on my keyboard, it's the letter E, and I can really position this playhead exactly where I want to position it. So I can position it right at the beginning of this, where these waveforms start. That's another one I use all the time when editing. Now, another thing we've talked about is cutting, right? So far we use the razor tool to make a lot of our cuts, right? Something you can do though, without actually going to the razor tool, is just move your playhead over the part where you want to cut and then hit S on your keyboard. And as you can see, it's just made a split for me. So I can move my playhead here, hit S, it makes a cut, which makes it so much easier for me to really quickly make cuts and delete things. Another keyboard shortcut I really, really love is the delete key. So normally if you're going to delete, we click on this, then we go delete selected. What I can do is just click on this, hit D on my keyboard, or backspace, or the delete key, and it's just going to delete it. And one other thing I really like is instead of having to then come over, click here, and then drag this together, what you can do is click into this empty space, and it's going to highlight it, and then hit the delete key again, so backspace, delete, or D on your keyboard, and it just automatically deletes that space and joins your footage together. And the final one, you remember we talked about syncing and linking footage. What you can do instead of having to highlight, right click, link, and unlink clips is instead of just clicking on a clip like this, which is going to select both of them, hold Alt or Option on Mac, and click on, say, video track, and you can see it's going to select just the video track instead of the audio track. So I can, for example, come click my razor tool and hold Alt or Option and click, and it's just going to cut my video. Alt or Option again, click, just going to cut my video. I'm going to come here, delete this, and you can see it's just deleted my video without impacting my track below it. So it's a quick way to link and unlink clips there. Now, if you want to use the basic methods I've shown you so far, they're tried and true. They're a little bit more straightforward. You don't have to remember fancy keyboard shortcuts. Great, go for it. But as you get the hang of this, and you'll probably see me doing this throughout the following editing tutorials, if you learn how to use keyboard shortcuts, you practice remembering what those keyboard shortcuts are, it can really speed up your editing journey. All right, so now I want to talk about one of my favorite things in editing, which is animation or using keyframes. That's going to seem overwhelming and intimidating for a lot of people, but I promise you it's actually a lot simpler than you think. You're just going to follow me step by step. So I have on my timeline right now a little icon of the DaVinci Resolve logo with just a regular black background. Now, let's say I want to animate this logo to start at one side of the screen and then move to the other side of the screen. How would I do that? Well, the first thing I might want to do is I might want to actually position it where I want it to start. So I'm going to come and actually click on this little box here with like rectangles around it called transform. Click on that, and it's going to add little handles and a box around this icon. What I can do is I can click on these handles and like drag the box in and out to make it smaller and larger. And I can also click on it and drag it to one side of the screen like that. However, though, I can come back and click on these to turn them off. All I've done though is I've just moved the DaVinci Resolve logo from one side of the screen to the other. So if I come down to my timeline and hit play, you can see it just stays there. It doesn't actually do anything. So how do we get it to move? Well, think about a flip book, right? You know those flip books where you could draw a circle on one page and you move it slightly on the next page and move it slightly on the next page. And you do it like 100 times, then you flip through the book with multiple pages and it like makes a little moving animation. Editing is kind of like that, but we use frames. The problem is with the flip book is that in order to say, for example, get the DaVinci logo to move from one side of the screen, we would have to draw it on this side, then we have to go to the next page and draw it there, then go to the next page and draw it there, then draw it there, then draw it there, and like draw a bunch of pages until eventually we'd flip through the book and then we'd kind of move like jankily across the screen. But editing is really cool because there's this thing called keyframes. So I want you to imagine for a moment like a magic flip book. Imagine a flip book that has like 100 pages and you could draw the DaVinci Resolve logo on the left-hand side of the page on the first page of the book, and then you just go to the end of the book and you draw it on the right-hand side of the page, and then imagine this magic flip book would then automatically start drawing the circles slightly to the right and 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 slightly to the right on every page throughout the flip book until it had basically automatically animated the logo going from the left-hand side to the right-hand side. That's basically what we can do with editing using what's called keyframes. So for example, let's put our logo back over here on the left hand side, and then let's come to the inspector and click up here. This is where we're going to be able to add keyframes to basically start doing these cool animations. So over here we can see this one right here, position. This position field is where we're going to be able to control where the thing we're editing is actually located on the screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come across to position and click on these diamonds here, and that's going to turn on keyframes for this item. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my playhead to the end of this clip, and I'm going to click, well, I need to move it just a little bit to the right so I have something to inspect still. And then I'm going to click and drag this logo over to the right hand side. And what you can see is this kind of like red lines appearing, and it's showing me that it's automatically interpolating, which is called like drawing little keyframes and animating it so this logo is going to move smoothly across to the right hand side. So if I come back to the start now and I actually play this, you can see that the logo is moving slowly but surely to the right hand side. And again, what's really cool about this is back in the old days, people used to have to manually animate every single step to get it to move slowly. Now all you have to do is set the start point and the end point, and the editing program is going to automatically animate everything in between. Pretty cool, right? This circle moves pretty slowly though, right? So how would we actually move this up? How would we make this faster? Well, at the moment, we've added one keyframe to the left-hand side at 0 seconds, and then one keyframe to the right-hand side at 10 seconds. That means it's going to take 10 seconds for this logo to slowly animate its way across the screen. If we wanted to make this faster though, what we would do is we would add our final keyframe, our end keyframe at say 5 seconds instead of 10 seconds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move to the end, and you'll see when I'm over a keyframe, this little diamond thing here is going to go red. So as I'm moving this around, you can see there's no red, but then when I move it over a keyframe, it goes red. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to remove this keyframe by clicking on it. You can see that our circle is going to jump back to the start, and instead I'm going to go to the middle of our clip, and we've got keyframes enabled, and I'm going to drag this over to the other side. So if we play this now, what you're going to see is happening, our circle moves a bit faster and it makes itself to the other side of the screen about 5 seconds in. And we can make this even faster. And a way to actually visualize this is you can come and click on this little icon here, and you can see these two little white dots. These are our keyframes. So you can see there's one here and one here. So if I move this here, I turn it off, you can see it gets removed. I can make this circle move even faster. Let's drag our playhead back to right at the beginning, and then we're going to drag this across like so. You'll be able to see circle moves a lot faster now, right? So keyframes are really cool because not only can you animate the positioning of an object, but you can really easily adjust the speed of the animation just by moving your keyframes closer or further apart. But let's say we wanted to do a slightly more advanced animation. Let's say we wanted to have our logo move from the left-hand side of the screen to the right-hand side of the screen, and then have it move to the top of the screen. What we would do is we would just add another keyframe. We've got one keyframe here. You can see them represented on this graph. We could go a little bit further forward now, and we could drag our logo up to the top of the screen, and will happen now. If I go back to the start, it's going to move to the right, and it's going to slowly move up to the top to our other keyframe here. Now at the moment we've only been playing with position, but we can actually stack keyframes on top of each other to do multiple different sorts of animations at the same time. So I've only been moving this logo around the screen, but let's say I wanted to make it get larger and smaller. I could come to the beginning here, and I'm going to go up to my transform inspector window up here. I'm going to go to zoom, and I'm going to click on this to turn on keyframes. Now at the beginning, what I'm going to do is I can drag this smaller and larger like you would have seen, but instead of just clicking and dragging like we have been, you can actually edit the values over here. So let's do this 0.2, so it's quite small, and then let's move our playhead to the end of the animation, which is here, and then let's create another keyframe, and let's make it 0.4 in size. So it gets a lot larger now, right? So now what's going to happen, it's going to start out small, and then it's going to gradually get larger and gradually animate itself until it hits our final keyframe. So let's actually look at what this looks like. So it moves, and it gets gradually larger until it hits the end. Let's do one more kind of interesting animation just to spice things up a bit. So let's move our playhead back to the start, and then let's go back to our transform here, and let's go to rotation angle. Let's make the logo spin. So I'm going to come here, and again, same as we've done before, we're going to turn on keyframes. Then I'm going to drag this over to, say, let's go to here, and I'm going to come back to rotation angle. Again, you could click on this and you could drag it around like this, or controls over here in the inspector. So I'm just going to use the controls for the moment. I'm going to spin it around like that. So I've added 2 keyframes now in my rotation. So let's have a look at what our logo actually does if I play this video. It spins and then gets larger. Pretty cool, right? Now there are so many different things you can do in here. You can play around with the pitch to make it like tilt and like warp. You can play around with the yaw, which will make it tilt and warp, but in a slightly different direction. But the most important thing from this lesson is not for you to understand like the different types of animations and effects you can actually do. It's more about understanding how keyframes work. Because if you can understand that, you'll understand like how 30 or 40% of video editing works. Let's play around with actually doing something a little bit maybe more practical, like zooming in on something, right? That's something you'll do pretty frequently. Something small on the screen you want to highlight to viewers, guide their eyes in that direction, you might want to zoom in on it. So let's grab this bit of video footage. I'm just going to drag it straight into the timeline like so. Now that I've dragged this in, you can see there's kind of like some black bars around the edges. It's been scaled really, so I'm just going to click on the edges of these boxes here, just drag this out so it actually fills up the full screen. You can see I'm trying to highlight this particular video. Now I've got like this red rectangle around it, which is kind of cool, but it'd be even cooler if maybe we could zoom in and show this thumbnail in more detail. detail to our viewers. We can do that using keyframes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this particular video here. Again, we're going to make sure our inspector over here is opened. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to where I first add this box. I think it's about here. Yep. So I start adding the box here. We're going to try and zoom in. So we're going to add a zoom keyframe, right? So I'm going to add one keyframe here because this is where I want the zoom to start. I want to start fully zoomed out. Now let's move our playhead a little bit to the right. I'm just going to use my arrow keys, right? To like here and add another keyframe. We can do that by clicking and then just moving the perspective of this, and it's going to zoom in and zoom out. And you can see I can now zoom in on my footage. The problem I'm having though is it's not zooming in where I want it to zoom in. So what I need to do, I'm just going to turn this keyframe off for a second, is I need to add a position keyframe because I want to zoom in on a specific position of the screen. So I'm going to use zoom and position keyframes. So let's go back to where our first keyframe is. Little cheat code on how to do that. You can click the arrow and it'll just jump back to where your first keyframe is. And what we're also going to do is we're going to turn on position keyframes, right? So we're going to turn that on at the point where we want to start manipulating the position of the screen. Now let's move to the part where we want to actually zoom in. Let's say it's here. And now let's add our zoom and position keyframes. So we're going to add another zoom keyframe, a position keyframe here. Let's zoom in. Let's say we want to be that far zoomed in. And then we're going to go to our position and we're going to grab our X axis and move it over like so. Now, if we actually watch this animation back, here's what it will look like. Yeah. Why? Well, we've zoomed in and we've adjusted the position to be able to showcase the thing I'm talking about most clearly. Now that zoom was a little bit slow. So as we've talked about, you can change the positioning of keyframes to make it a little bit faster. So let's go back to here. I'm going to turn these keyframes off and let's go back with our playhead. Go back to like, maybe here is when I want the zoom to actually end. So let's add our keyframes back in. I'm going to zoom in, move our position across so it's centered, and then let's see how that looks. See, it zooms in a lot faster. Pretty cool, right? Now, the last thing we're going to do is we're going to need to actually zoom out on this footage. Now, this is where a lot of people make mistakes with keyframes. So I want to show you something. What a lot of people do is, let's say they want to zoom out of the screen about at this point here. They'll add keyframes in, and then they'll just zoom out, right? So they'll bring this back to 0. By the way, a little shortcut, you can just double click on the letter here to bring it back to what it was before. So if I change the position on this, I can double click on position and it's just gonna center it. And then I could bring my zoom back out to where I want it to be, which is here. And people will be like, okay, well, I've now added my zoom in and I've added my zoom out. The problem is, if we look at our graph here, what it's doing is zooming in and then it's just gonna start gradually zooming out because there's no keyframe to actually keep it in the position we want it to stay in. So let's go back and remove those keyframes we just added. We've done our zoom in here. Let's go to the part where we want it to zoom back out. What we're going to do is add a zoom and position keyframe just to keep it in this position the whole time. And then we're going to go a few frames to the right, like here, and we're going to add another zoom and position keyframe. So now you can see I have these two keyframes here. We're going to leave this first one here. We're not going to touch that because this one is going to keep our zoom for the duration we want it to be zoomed in. We're just going to touch this other one here. So we're going to come across here and we're going to take our zoom length. We're going to adjust it. Let's just double click on the zoom, bring it back to 0, and just double click on position and bring it back like so. Now I do need to zoom in just a little bit just because this footage wasn't scaled properly. So like there, just to get rid of the black bars on the side of the screen. Can you see in the graph how it looks a bit different to the way it looked before? I'll show on screen how it looked before and I'll show you how it looked now. You can see how adding this extra keyframe in here has stopped it from gradually zooming out. So what our actual footage is going to look like, it's going to zoom in, and it's going to stay zoomed in until it gets to this portion back here with the presentation of this idea. And it's going to zoom back out to where it's supposed to be. And again, this principle applies no matter where you're adding keyframes, whether you're trying to rotate or zoom or crop. You need to remember, if you add two keyframes of different values, your editing program is going to animate the space in between those two different values to gradually manipulate whatever it is you're editing to meet that second value. So if you want to prevent it from doing that, if you want to hold the screen in a certain place, you need to add a hold keyframe to stop it from moving until it hits that hold keyframe and then zoom back out to, in this case, a full screen video mode. But I do want to do something a little bit more advanced here. Let's say that I actually want to zoom in and then pan across a couple of videos. So I'm going to come back to my timeline. I'm going to move to this portion, and let's say I want to start panning, moving around the screen at this portion here. Now, as you might remember, we're going to add a keyframe to hold this position. And then what we're going to do is we're going to move to our next keyframe here, and we're going to move our screen around a little bit. So let's just like say move it across like that. So it's going to pan across those different videos, and then let's play that and see what that looks like. So it's going to zoom in like we've told it to. It's going to stay zoomed in until it hits our frame hold. Then it's going to pan across all the different videos. Good as a video idea. However, I have some problems with the and then when it hits the final keyframe here, presentation of this idea. It's going to zoom back out and center itself like we told it in the beginning. Pretty cool, right? They are a little bit hard to get your head around, but just watch this video a couple of times, go into your editing program, play around with different keyframe animations, and very soon it'll become second nature. It'll become intuitive to you, and you'll be animating like a pro in no time. So now we've learned some of the very basics. We're going to learn some more basics that are going to allow us to get a little bit more creative, specifically in the visual department. So the first thing I want to show you is how to start adding overlays and things like actually on top of your footage beyond just, because the moment we just focused on like manipulating your existing footage, cutting it up, all that kind of thing. Now we're going to look at how to actually add things in. So the first thing that you're going to want to learn to do is come over to your timeline over here, and then you're going to right click on this section and then click add track. What you can see is this adds another track, essentially another place where you can place footage. And basically this allows us to then start adding in different media, clips, photos, etc. on top of our video footage. And I say on top of because that's basically how the tracks are ordered. So essentially we've got two tracks here, right? Let's say I grab this clip here and I drag it on top of this and put it in this top track. Now what you'll see is if I move my playhead over these clips, only the top clip is actually showing because it's on top of, it's over the top of these other two. Now if I move it down, you can see that it comes down below. So basically just think about tracks as if you're almost like stacking Lego bricks on top of each other. Like the one that's highest track is going to be the thing that's on top of everything else. So let's go and actually start adding some things. Let's say for example, I wanted to indicate something. Let's say I wanted to use an arrow or a circle or something. I'm just going to go to Google and I'm just going to type like a red arrow transparent. I'm going to go to images and I'm just going to find an image that's transparent. And one way you can do this is just go tools and then down in color, select transparent. And it's only going to show you things that are transparent. So I'm going to grab this first image. We're going to save image. And now let's go and grab this image. And what we're going to do is we're going to drag it and we're going to chuck it in the track that we just created. DaVinci lagging out, don't like us. So I'm going to just dump it right there. Now, if I zoom in on this, if I chuck this here, what you can see is we now have a big arrow up on our screen. And what I can do is using the keyframing that you learned about earlier, I can come and click on this and I might keyframe this down. Let's say we want to point at my health bar, which is right there, right? So I could position this, rotate it a little bit, bam, we now have an arrow pointing at my health bar. Like so. Now, just like we can animate zooms and pans and all that good stuff on our overlays and stuff using keyframes. So I can grab this image, for example, and I could set a keyframe here and I could go to the end here, add another keyframe. And let's say on this particular keyframe over here, I'm going to move it this way and I'm going to rotate it this way. So now if we watch this back, let me just turn off these handles so it's easier to see. We have our image and it's slowly animating as to the keyframes that we've set. Kind of looks like a clock. Now this particular arrow is very bright red, so it stands out really well. However, sometimes when you're using overlays, particularly like lighter colored overlays, like if you're overlaying white text on a relatively light background, it's going to be hard for them. They're not going to stand out very well. So some techniques I use pretty frequently to get things to stand out is firstly drop shadow. So what I want to do is click on this guy right here and I'm going to come over to my effects tab over here. So if you don't know how to get to that, just click on up here, effects. Then I'm going to go to filters over here inside of OpenFX. If you don't see it, just make sure you open FX and then you're going to go and type shadow and you can see we have a drop shadow. What you're going to do is you're going to grab that and drag it over the top of the arrow. And I don't know if you saw that right there. Let me undo. Can you see the arrow? It has like now a shadow around it, which just makes it stand out that little tiny bit more. Now what's cool is if we click on where we've added the shadow and up in the top right hand side, we've opened up our inspector. So again, you just click on, if you ever see something I have open that isn't open for you, just find the white tab tab and then just click on it and it'll open up. What you can do is you can go from video to effects, and inside of OpenFX, you can see that I've added this drop shadow, and I can turn it off and on, but I can also adjust the settings of it. So I can change the strength and make it a lot harsher, more subtle. I can change the angle, so I can change the angle of the drop shadow. I can change the distance, so I can have it be really far down or really close. A bunch of things you can play around with to make this really customized to your style and your brand. Now, let's say I didn't want to just have an arrow on screen. I also wanted to have text there. So what I can do is over in the left-hand side here, I can go from where I was in filters up to titles. And then from tiles, I'm just going to select, say, text plus. And what I can do, if I actually drag it above over here, you can see that it actually automatically creates a new track for me. So you can see it just created video track 3. And now what you can see is I have this text that has been created for me. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this and I'm going to position it right where I want, which let's say I want to position it right about here, and we'll put it on a little bit of an angle. Now, let's say we particularly wanted this text to stand out. We could add a drop shadow like I just showed you, which would be cool and would work. However, let's try something a little bit different. Drop shadow is one way to make things stand out. The second most common way is using a stroke. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come and click on text here. Then I'm going to go up to make sure I'm on video, on title, and I'm in this text box here. Then what I'm going to do is come over to shading, and in shading, we're going to go to number 2. And what we're going to do is turn this checkbox on. This is going to enable a red outline right now, you can see, around our text. Now, I don't really want this to be red, so I'm going to do is scroll down in color, and I'm going to change this to black, and I'm going to change the thickness. We can make this quite thick. So I'm going to crank that like all the way up here, and you can see there's quite a solid black overlay around this text now. You can see before, after. Now, it doesn't make a huge difference on this particular clip, but if this was on a really light colored clip, let's say we drag it over here, for instance, and let's see if we can find something a bit lighter. Let's put our text in the sky here, just so I can show you what this might look like. Let's put it up here on the white clouds. So you can see without this on, it doesn't really stand out all that much, right? But when I put this on, now you can't miss it. Like, it very much stands out. And this is kind of a bit ugly, and there's a bunch of different things you can play around with inside of here to make it styled the way you want. But those are basically two of the main effects or techniques you'll use to make things stand out when they're kind of blending in with your background footage. Now, in cases like I've been showing you right now, I'm overlaying text or objects in a way that they become part of the background footage, right? I'm trying to show both the background footage and, in this case, the arrow at the same time. However, there might be moments where you kind of want to show the background footage, but you don't actually want people to look at it. You kind of just want it there as background footage. For example, maybe you're showing a title on screen. For example, I'll grab this guy, come across to text, and I'm going to customize this, hello world. And I don't really want people looking in the background right now. I just want them looking at the text. One technique that I really like is lowering the opacity of the background footage to make it darker. So let me show you what that looks like. Let me turn off this outline as well, just to show you how it makes this white text stand out a lot more, right? Let me actually just drag this box out so we got a little bit more room. If I come down to my background clip, which is right here, what I can do, I'm just going to cut the bit around my text. So I'm going to cut from here and cut here. And I'm going to select the clip that is going to be underneath my text, the background footage underneath my text. I'm going to go to video, and I'm going to scroll down to composite here. And in composite, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just drag this opacity down like so. Now what you can see is the background footage has been darkened, but my text still stays the same brightness. And that means that if I wanted to, say, have like an intro card or text that I just want people to read, I don't really want them focusing on the background at that particular point, I can use this kind of effect and it looks really, really nice. Now, something I can also do is I can add transitions to this, because at the moment this is like gonna look a little bit harsh, right? So what I can do is I can add transition to this like I showed you earlier. I could grab, for example, the cross dissolve transition and put this here. And I could also use like a fade in on this by grabbing this handle and drag in like I've shown you. And now it'll look like this. Okay, all right. See how it like gradually fades in and looks pretty slick? That's what you want. Just makes it feel a lot less clunky and amateur. Now, another technique you can use to make objects or effects you're overlaying onto the screen stand out more is a blur effect. So for example, if I grab this text and just duplicate it over here, let's cut up this piece of footage here. to isolate it from the rest of the background footage. Again, doesn't stand out as much. What I could do is I could add a blur on this. What you're going to do is go down to filters, and then what you're going to do is find this Gaussian blur filter right here. You're going to click on this, drag this across and drag it onto your background footage. And what you can see has happened is my background footage has now blurred out. I could also grab a transition, chuck this on top of that. And now what you'll see, if you watch this, is we'll go from footage that is unblurred to a blurry background with our hello world text on it. Now it's still a little bit bright, so we can actually start stacking these things on top of each other. So I could click on this, I could come across, I'm in the effects panel automatically, so I'm going to come across to video, come down to composite, change the opacity, and now I have blurred out background that's also darker. And now that there's no way someone is going to miss my text. They're going to 100% focus on my text first and not going to get distracted by whatever's going on in the background. Now, you don't just have to use text or arrows or circles or whatever it is. You can get creative here, and this is where you can overlay and animate anything you want. Because again, remember, you can use keyframes to make the text or the arrows or whatever it is you're overlaying move around the screen however you want it. But using the techniques I've just showed you, no matter what kind of edit you're going for, you should always be able to make it stand out in the way you want. Because a big part of editing is directing your viewer's eye. It's making sure that they are looking at the thing they're supposed to be looking at. So if you're putting up text on the screen, you want them to be reading at that moment because it's really key to the story or your video. You don't want them distracted by the background footage. Now, I want to show you one more specific effect technique because this is something that I see a lot of people use and it can add some humor to your videos, and that is the shake effect. So let's say I wanted this text to shake. And a reason you might want, say, text to shake is if you're screaming or if there's something loud, having it shake along with the microphone peaking actually sounds kind of funny, comedic. You've probably seen this a million times. So what you can do is, again, in effects, we're going to come down to filters, and then you're going to type in this text bar camera shake, and you're going to see this one right here. So I'm going to grab this and drag it over the top of my text right here. Drop that on like so. And now it's going to automatically take me to this effects panel, and you're going to see the camera shake effect is turned on. Now, if I play this back, what you see is my text is shaking around. And you can basically adjust all of these different sliders here to make it shake however you want. So for example, I could adjust the speed and turn that all the way up, and now it's going to shake a lot faster. I can adjust the motion scale, and now it's going to shake a bit more aggressively. I can adjust the motion blur, and now it's going to blur as it's shaking. Again, this is a really fun effect to add if someone's screaming or something aggressive is happening and you want to sort of exaggerate that. You can have the elements on screen shake along with whatever's happening. Now, those are some of my most commonly used effects, but there are so many different effects in DaVinci. You can just come over to effects, filters, and scroll through here, and you'll see there's a ton of different things you can play around with. I do want to show you two last things before we move on to the next portion of this lesson. They're not specific edits, but they are ways of applying specific edits more efficiently and effectively. Now, I'm just going to reduce my playback a bit just because it's being a little bit laggy for me. But let's say, for example, I wanted to apply, say, a blur effect to all of these different clips. Now, I currently have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different clips here. I could go and manually grab my Gaussian blur and drag it onto each individual clip and then adjust the settings on the blur to be however I would like, to be more blurry or less blurry depending on my preferences. The problem is it's not very efficient. So something that is more efficient is we can use a thing called an adjustment layer. So if we come back to effects here and then we grab an adjustment clip, I'm actually going to drag this in on a new track above all the tracks I'm trying to edit. So it actually didn't drag it on a new track, so I'm going to add one, drag this up here. I'm just going to make the audio tracks a bit quieter and drag this down just so we can see a bit more of the video, what's going on. And what we're going to do is I'm going to grab this adjustment layer and drag it over all of my footage like this. Now, if we look at our footage, you can see that it hasn't actually done anything yet. But what I can do now, for example, is if I go to filters, and I go to Gaussian blur and I put that on the adjustment clip, you can see that it blurs the footage underneath. And now, no matter where I go or what clip I go to on my timeline, as long as it is beneath my adjustment clip,
the Gaussian blur effect is applied to it. So I haven't actually applied any effects to my raw clips. I've simply applied them to the adjustment layer. Now, the last thing I want to show you is a little bit more on the advanced side, but when you find a use case for this, it's going to like save you so much time. So let's say, for example, I have all of these different clips here, right? So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clips. Let's say I wanted to add a gradual zoom in on all of these clips. So I wanted to go from here and start zooming in, and then to here, and then finish zooming in. The problem is I have all of these different clips, right? So if I was to try and do that smoothly, I'd have to go to this clip, and then I'd have to go to transform, and then I'd have to add a keyframe, and I'd keyframe it to this point, and I'd go to the next clip, and then I'd add a keyframe, and then adjust it so that it transitions seamlessly between the last clip and the next one, and it's just like a pain in the ass. It's really fiddly. So what you can do instead is highlight all of these, right click, so you come up here, you click on new compound clip, and I'll just hit create. What you can see is it's now turned all of these into one clip. And now what I can do is just apply my effects to this entire clip. So for example, I could grab this, I could add my keyframe here, and go to the end, add my last keyframe here. So like zoom into there, right? Now if we watch back this footage, it's going to gradually zoom in as we go until we reach our final zoomed in level that we've applied back here. And this is really useful when you're trying to apply one overarching effect to a group of clips, adding them all to a compound clip, and then just adding a big fade in or fade out to the audio of the compound clip just makes things so much easier. So bunch to take in. Feel free to watch this multiple times and play around with all the things we talked about in this lesson. Create some new tracks, add some transparent PNGs and animate them around the screen. Adjust their shadows and strokes to make them stand out more. Add a blur or decrease the opacity of the background footage to make your overlay stand out more. And experiment with adding those effects not just to the base footage, but to an adjustment layer. Lastly, if you're trying to add keyframes, fade-ins, fade-outs to a large swath of clips, you can experiment with using a compound clip to do it a lot more efficiently. And that's it for this lesson. All right, so we've learned how to add things like overlays and text and manually keyframe animate them over our footage. That's all well and good, and that is something that you'll probably use more than any other type of overlay animation. However, you might have seen overlays on screen that basically look like cutout footage. Maybe I'll show some examples on the screen right now. And these can't be done with keyframes. They can't be done with PNG images. They're done by actually overlaying video footage on top of your base footage. And let me show you how to do that. So first thing we're going to do is add a video track, and I'm going to show you two different things. So the first one I'm going to do is show you how to add like an overlay on top of a video. So for example, I'm just going to grab this clip and drag it up here. Let's say I wanted to apply this sort of rainbow pulsing effect over my video footage. What I do is I click on this, and then kind of like we talked about earlier when you're making your base footage darker, what you're going to do is come down to composite, and then you're going to decrease the opacity on this guy until it's like as bright as you want. Now I'm just going to add like a slight fade into this, and then if we watch our footage back, what you'll see
in each tree. It's like mining shrubs. All right, come on.
Now I have this rainbow pulsing effect playing in the background. Now you can do that with so many things, but that doesn't really help us when we're trying to overlay a specific thing on part of the screen. So let's grab this video of Travolta. You know, he's just kind of looking around trying to figure out what's going on. The problem is if I try and just use my opacity to edit this, it's going to decrease the opacity of Travolta himself, right? So what I want is I want to decrease the opacity of just the green area and keep Travolta the same level of opacity. And we can do this using what's called chroma keying or green screen. So what you're going to do, make sure your clip's selected that you want to edit, then come down to Fusion. Now this is going to look like a whole new tool, and it kind of is, but don't worry, it's not too scary. We can figure this out pretty quickly. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to this media in node right here, this one. You're going to click on it, and then you're going to go Shift Space. That's going to bring up this little window right here. And then in this window, I'm just going to type keys. I'm going to come up here and click on the Delta key option and hit add. I'm going to come to this little eyedropper tool. I'm going to click and hold, and I'm going to drag it over the green. Now you want to make sure you drag it over the green, because if I drag it over the guy, it's going to like try and key out his face. I'm going to drag it over the green, hit release on that. And now if I come back to my edit page, what you'll see is the green is gone, and I now just have this clip of the guy overlaid on top of my screen. Now, one thing you might notice right here is if I kind of drag this down, this like kind of green halo outline around him still, you can fine tune that with this gain slider here. So I'm going to grab the gain slider and drag it this way. You can see that I can kind of get rid of that. Now it's turning a little bit purple if I go too much, but if I go about here, that looks pretty good, right? So you can see there's not really that green outline around him anymore. So I go back to my edit page, you can see it looks pretty damn good. Now all I have to do is position this wherever it is that I want to position him. All right, let's say I want to put him over here. And there we go. And you can do this with any type of green screen. Now, to find green screens, you can literally just go to YouTube or to Google and just type in whatever you're looking for, followed by green screen, and then just download that. So for example, if I just type in like free download green screens and come into say this website, again, there's so many of them. You can see this website alone has over 2,500 green screens that you can just click on and download. And that is pretty much how you add those videos or overlay-esque looking effects to your videos.
So one thing a lot of YouTube videos include are vocals, a voiceover, like talking to camera, like I am right now to you, or just a voiceover that goes over the top of B-roll or footage or something like that. And making that sound crystal clear, even if you have a good quality microphone, a lot of people struggle with it. So what I want to show you today is some basic audio editing that'll make your voiceover sound a bit better. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab my clip, which I will chuck into my edit tab right here. So this is just a raw audio clip. I might boost the volume of this because it seems a bit quiet. This is a test recording, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, let's just bring the volume up just a tad just so we can hear it a bit better. This is a test recording, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've just got an audio clip here that's just audio, but you could, for example, you could have a video track as well, and then just select the audio for this, and that works fine. We've got your track, then you're gonna come across to this Fairlight tab over here, and this is where we can do a bit more advanced audio editing stuff. What we're gonna try and do is make this sound better by using EQ. And make sure your mixer over here is on. You can see this tab here. There's like a row that correlates to each track you have in your video. So I'm going to select the audio track that has the audio I want to improve in it, which is my vocal audio here. On that one, I'm going to go down and I'm going to select EQ. I'm going to double click on it and it's going to bring up this thing right here. What I'm first going to do is come down to band 5 and I'm going to right click on this and click on this bell curve option here. And then I'm going to show you some editing we can do to try and make our voice sound a little bit better. Now, I'm not going to give you actually specific values here because everyone's voice is going to be different, right? Different settings will suit different voice tones, especially there might be a big difference between, for example, a male voice and a female voice. So let's actually take a look at this. So what we're going to do is essentially just play back our clip, and you can just move this window so you can see your clip if you want. This is a test recording, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. All right, let's listen to that again. This is a test recording, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. Is a test recording, 1, 2, 3. All right, I think something like that sounded decent. Now, if we listen to the before and after, this is what it sounded like before. Is a test recording, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. Cool. You hear the difference there? It just sounds a little bit crisper, a little bit cleaner. Now that we've done that, another little thing that you might want to do is come over here to band 6 and just click on this. And what we can do is just cut out some of the high frequencies. So we're going to grab that, and the same as before, you can just have a listen to it and just drag the 6 a little bit to the left. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. Cool, I think like that sounds pretty good to me. That's gonna help take care of our audio sounding a little bit crisper at the high end. Something else that you can also do though, so they call it like mud. Sometimes your audio might sound a little bit messy on the lows. And what we can do is kind of clean that up as well. So what you can do is come down to band 1 here, you're gonna turn that on, and you can see that it's now changed our curve a little bit and brought it down like that to cut out some of the lows. Now, I might drag this around a tad. Test recording, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. Maybe something like that. This is a test recording 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Cool. Now, again, just play around with dragging the bottom end and the top end curves around. But when you do that and you find something that sounds decent, like I think I have here, we can just play this back and here's what it will sound like. Let's turn it off and do the before. This is a test recording 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. Cool, and let's listen to it one more time with just the audio effects on. This is a test recording 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. Cool, so you can hear a big difference there. It sounds a lot crisper, a lot cleaner, a lot clearer, and that's just going to make your audio sound a lot better in the future. Something you can do is save that so you don't have to come in here and do this every single time for every single new video you create. So what you will do is come over here, click on the plus button, add preset, and then click on create new preset and just name it. So I can just name it Marcus's voice. And hit OK. And then now, next time you want to apply this preset, all you'd have to do is come into this drop down and click on Marcus's voice. So for example, I could click away from this like that, and I can come in here, go click on Marcus's voice, and you can see the peaks just jump back to where I set them. So that's how to edit your audio to make your vocals sound a little bit crisper, clearer, and nicer. Okay, so we've talked about adding visual effects, green screens, overlays, keyframing, animating, etc., etc. We haven't focused much on audio yet. Audio is a crucial part of your video. Some would even say, not all, but some would say that your audio is more important than your video itself. So let's go over how to actually optimize that and then some of the more common things you'll want to learn how to do when it comes to editing the auditory portion of your video. So the first thing we're going to talk about is just basic audio editing of your raw footage, right? Adjusting the volume, right? So we've got this clip right here, and if I just click on this and drag it down, I can see the waveforms.
Hours and I'll be there.
Now, one thing I often like to do when I'm editing my audio is I can come up to the mixer up here, click on that. It's going to open up this little panel here, and it's going to show me how loud my video is.
No, it doesn't look like it. Okay. Oh, there's some over there. There's some over there. So give me 36 hours.
Now, what you usually want to look for is make sure your audio isn't going into the red. So for example, if I cranked this up,
and I'll be there at a steady walk.
You see how it's frequently going into the red?
The military have a saying, slow is...
That's not great. So let's talk about how to actually edit your audio. So now, on a specific clip, the easiest way to edit your audio is you click on the clip itself. Can you see this white line down here? If I hover over this, I get these two arrows. What I can do is I can click on it and drag it up. You can see it makes the waveforms a lot bigger, or I can drag it down. So I can adjust the volume in that way. If I want to make it louder, I would do that. Now that's going to be horrible because that's going to sound super loud. If I want it to be quieter, I drag it down and do that into the negative decibels. So let's just say I want to make this a little bit louder, something like that, right?
Now the military have a saying, slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
So we've got that. I wanted to make it even quieter. I grab this, drag it down like this.
Now the military have a saying, slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
You can see it's a lot harder to hear, right? Now, what if though you wanted to increase the volume of a particular part of your audio without affecting the rest of your clip? Now, one thing you could do, obviously, is you could just cut your audio, right? So you could cut it here, and then grab the bit that you want to make louder and make it loud so it's a lot louder than the rest of your footage. But sometimes that doesn't work because sometimes maybe you want to make your audio gradually louder, right? So let me undo this. And let me show you, we can use what we learned about keyframes in our audio editing as well. So what I could do, for example, one thing I can show you right here, right? Can you see this little portion of video right here? Can you see how it starts off talking loud and it sort of like peters off a little bit, gets a bit more quiet?
I was kind of concerned that I was going to die because I don't know how this...
Right? Maybe let's say I wanted to make this the same volume the whole way through, but in the video itself, I actually start out talking loud and then end up talking quieter. What I can do is I can just hover over this white line. I'm going to hold down Alt and then click, and it's going to add this like little red dot. Looks pretty similar to a keyframe, right? Well, it turns out it is a keyframe, right? If I come up to my inspector in the top right here, click on that, come to audio, what you'll see is that I actually have the same sort of diamond keyframe option that I do for videos. You can see that right now I've just added a keyframe. What I can do then is come to the next bit of footage, Alt, click on that, and I'm going to add one more keyframe because again, remember we need to always anchor our baseline somewhere. And then I would click and grab this keyframe here and drag it up. If you look really closely, you can see the white line is kind of gradually going up. And what that's basically going to make this do is it's going to make the volume get gradually louder. And then when it hits this final keyframe, it's going to go back to the standard volume.
I was kind of concerned that I was going to die because I don't know how this...
Can you hear how that's like a little bit more balanced, a little bit more even now? And that's a perfect effect. I do this all the time. I'll be talking and I'll get excited and then I'll go down and I'll like mumble something. People can like turn up their volume. In the loud parts, I'm too loud, and the quiet parts, I'm too quiet. So you can use this sort of keyframing of your audio volume to make sure that you're one consistent volume and people can always hear what it is that you have to say. Speaking of one consistent volume though, right now on this timeline, you can see in this audio track, I have 3 different clips. Now, let's say I wanted to make them all a bit louder. So I could grab this, drag it up to 4, grab this, drag it up to 4, grab this, drag it up to 4, or wherever I'm going to drag it up to, and then grab this one and drag it up to 4 as well. That's going to get really time consuming and annoying, especially if I have like hundreds of clips on my timeline. So what you can do instead, using the mixer that we activated earlier, is adjust the volume of an entire audio track. So I can grab this slider and bring it down or bring it up, and that's going to adjust the volume of any audio clip inside of my Audio 1 track, which you can see right here is this track here.
Mechanics in this game work yet, but
now that begs a question though, how loud should your overall video actually be? In general, I would say you don't want to be getting too much louder than say -3 decibels. But if you want a layman's sort of test to look at, over here when you're looking at your audio mixer, basically what you want to do is just make sure it's not going into the red too frequently. Occasionally it's okay if you go up into the reds, let's say it's a funny moment video and you're screaming or something like that. But when it goes into the red, it means your audio is going to peak, which means it's going to sound like crackly and kind of gross. It works sometimes for comedic effect or to kind of like exaggerate and portray that someone is speaking or yelling really loudly or something really loud is happening. But in general, it's kind of going to blow people's eardrums and you don't want that. Now, the last thing I want to show you before we get into some more advanced audio editing is how to balance audio across multiple clips. Now, this effect isn't perfect, but it can help in certain situations. So I'll show you it. Basically, let's say we have these 3 different clips, right? So we've got this one, and this one. Let's say that we wanted to balance as well as we could the audio across all of them. What we can do is we can grab our audio clips. I'm just going to hold down Alt and drag. So I'm just selecting my audio clips. I'm going to right click and then I can go normalize audio levels. Click on that, and then I can select the target decibel level. I don't mind going 6, and I'm going to hit normalize. And you can see the waveforms on my audio tracks adjusted slightly.
This game is so... Why is there so little wood in each tree? It's like mining shrubs. All right, come on, come on.
And what that's tried to do is more effectively balancing my audio across my entire video. All right, that's editing your base audio levels. But now let's talk about adding a little bit more pizzazz. So what we're gonna do, just like how we added video tracks, we're gonna come down here, we're gonna right click, we're gonna add a track and add an audio track. When you're adding an audio track though, you have the option to choose between stereo and mono. I would always recommend selecting mono. Stereo basically means that you can adjust the volume of someone's individual ear if they're using headphones. So for example, you could have it be louder in one headphone and quieter in the other. I think that's just a little bit complicated trying to balance all that. I just want everything to be the same volume in both of their earphones. So I always go mono. That makes it the same. That balances everything out. You can see when I created that, it's created a track. And it's also created a new section in the mixer, so I can adjust the overall volume of this track as well. First thing we're going to look at is let's talk about adding music. To add music, you need music to add. And some really easy first place to look sometimes for music is actually YouTube's music library. So I can go to my channel. Then I go down to audio library, click down here. And you can see there are a bunch of different music tracks uploaded by YouTube that we can use 100% copyright free and monetize our videos. You can preview them by clicking on this. term music has become quite generous, hey. Anyway, so you can, when you find the thing you want, you can come down, click here and click download. That music will download. Then I just come across to DaVinci, and what I will do is I'll grab that music that has just downloaded and drag it into my audio track down here. And now if we play back this video, you'll see there is music in the background. The problem is the music is incredibly loud and obnoxious right now. So we don't want that because you can't hear what's being said, and also
Steady walk.
it's significantly going into the red over here, right? So what I'm gonna do is decrease the volume of my music track, maybe down here.
Hours and I'll be there at a steady walk. Now the military have a saying, slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
And there we have it. We now have background music. Not exactly the best background music in the world, but we have background music. Now, similarly with the volume, you can decrease and increase the volume of your music using like this white bar by clicking and dragging it. And you can also add keyframes to it as well to do some like more advanced music editing if you want. For example, maybe you want your music to like build up gradually, to start quieter and then get louder, right? So I could do this.
Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Don't think they've ever played this game.
Now, when it comes to picking music for your video, essentially you want to choose your music based on the tone of your video. And often you don't want like one background track just in general throughout the course of your whole video. Usually you'll want to have multiple different music tracks depending on what's going on. So if like something epic is happening, add some epic music. If you're like trying to leave your audience in suspense, add some suspenseful music. If something stupid or silly is happening, add some like stupid, silly music. Basically think about the emotion that you want your audience to be feeling at this point in the video, and then try and find music that conveys or exaggerates that emotion. Now, in the same way that we've added music, we can also add sound effects. So I'm just going to bring this down. I'm going to add a new track, mono track. We're going to use this track for our sound effects. I'm going to come back to YouTube and let's go from music across to sound effects here. Here we have a woodpecker pecking on a tree. Which I can't hear for the life of me. I guess my thing is... So I could just download this wooden train whistle if I was trying to create the worst piece of content ever, and do the same thing that I did with my music. Grab that effect, drag it into my track, and here we have our train whistle.
Of a whopping 6 wood after like 70,000 minutes of mining.
Now, a couple of things here. I like to have my music and my sound effects in different tracks. I like to keep them separated. The reason for that is that it makes it easier for me to find a particular sound effect if I'm looking for it and I have multiple clips in a video, and also using the audio mix so I can control the overall volume of my sound effects and my music. Now, when to use sound effects, when not to use sound effects. There's kind of 2 types of sound effects to use. The first would be, I call them exaggerations, but I think they're technically called Foley sound effects. Basically, you want to take moments from within your video and then use sound effects to exaggerate them. So for example, let's say that in your video, it's a gaming video, right? And one of the gaming characters falls out of the sky. When he hits the ground, you could add a sound effect that's like a smack sound effect to exaggerate the impact of him hitting the ground. Or let's say in your video there's a car crash. You could find a car crash sound effect and overlay it at the exact moment that the car impacts with something to basically exaggerate the crashing sound. Another one, this is super common, is when you're transitioning something onto the screen, whether it's an arrow, a photo, or whatever, you can have some sort of sound effect to exaggerate that transition. A common one could be like a whoosh sound effect, where something will like slide onto the screen and there'll be like a whoosh. Kind of like, I'll show one right now. Cool. And another common one would be like a camera click effect. If you're showing a photo or something, instead of just having it pop on screen, you'd have it appear on screen with a camera click. For example, like this. So there's like Foley or exaggeration sound effects. The second type of sound effect would be a sound effect that's actually designed to kind of be its own bit. So you could have like a meme sound effect or a jingle or a voice line or whatever. This is less common in not so comedic or memey videos, but if you are creating very comedic memey videos, they're probably going to be very common. And the last type of sound effect that's pretty common would be like atmospheric ambience. So let's say you're recording a spooky video, you might want to have a long, spooky, ambient sounding sound effect. I might put an example on screen as well. So I'm not going to get too much into like specific sound effects to add because it's going to really depend on the type of video you're using. But again, just basically think about it as exaggerating key or important moments in your video or the emotion you want your viewers to be feeling at a particular point in your video. Now, the last thing I want to talk about are some transitions and effects for sound effects, because just like we did with video transitions, you can transition and fade in and fade out your audio, which is super important. So like, for example, this clip, I could grab this, drag it in, and the audio is going to gradually fade in.
Where's the actual item?
Which is a lot less harsh than if I just did this.
Where's the actual item?
Right? You can also, if you come to effects and then go to audio transitions, you have crossfade effects. So for example, if I had a cut in my video here, I could grab a crossfade effect, chuck it over my audio clip right here. Those clips are going to gradually fade into each other as opposed to be a really harsh transition. You can also find a bunch of audio effects if you come down to audio effects, right? And basically a lot of these are going to be pretty self-explanatory. So one effect, for example, that I've seen people use quite a lot, especially in like gaming videos, would be when they are saying something sarcastic, they'll add an echo effect to their voice to sort of emphasize the fact that they're saying something sarcastic or making a joke. So what you do is you just find the part where you're saying something sarcastic. Let's say it's like this portion of audio here. Then you'd go grab the echo effect, chuck it over like that. You can come up here and select some sort of preset. So let's just say large hall, and I'm going to click out of this. And now,
All right, let's go up and get this other tree, and then we'll find. Oh, I saw an item drop there. There we go. Look at that.
we have echo. Now I'm going to go a bit more in depth on how to use some audio effects to really make your voice sound better in a second, but just for this portion, we're talking more about overall audio editing and effects. You can just kind of go through here, find what it is you're actually looking for, and just apply it and see how it sounds. So that's the bulk of what you need to know when it comes to audio editing. That's how you adjust the volume or ramp the volume in specific parts of your clips using keyframes. It's how you add tracks, it's how you add sound effects, how you add music, how you can control the volume of an overall track using the audio mixer, and last but not least, how you can add effects and transitions to your audio clips. Okay, the time has come. We've done all of our editing and now we have to actually render our video so we can post it onto YouTube. Let me show you how to do that. So in DaVinci, once your video is edited, you're going to come down to the Deliver tab. Now in Deliver, the first thing you're going to do is select the portion of your timeline that you wish to render out and turn into your video. So you can do that by dragging this little thing up here around. So let's say, for example, you can see that I've got this little clip in here. Let's say I didn't want to render that. I could drag this to here, and now it's only going to render this clip and not render this one. So once I've selected the clip that I want to actually render, what I can do is I'm going to come across to the left-hand side here, make sure we're on the custom export section. First, we can choose the name of our clip, and then you can come to location. So let's say I want to save it to like my desktop, right? Then what we're going to do is keep scrolling down. In export video, it's going to default render as QuickTime. I prefer personally to render as MP4. So we're going to select MP4 there, leave it at H.264. This resolution, leave it on timeline resolution. Frame rate, got to be the same. Leave it on the frame rate of your timeline. When you imported your clips and you said yes, change, on that initial pop-up that you would have seen right at the beginning, it would have changed your timeline setting to match the resolution and frame rate of the footage you were importing. So this stuff's already done automatically for you. Then for quality, you can go automatic and select it as best. Now, if you render this and you find that, oh, these files are really big, I really don't want this, you can experiment with doing high or medium, right? Your footage is going to be slightly worse quality, but it's going to take up a lot less space on your computer. Now, the next thing we're going to do is basically just scroll all the way down. You can basically just ignore everything else. I don't really bother about going into audio or file or anything like that. And then we're just going to hit add to render queue. That's going to add this render here as a job to render out on our timeline. And you could just hit render all, or if you want to render out multiple videos, you can add multiple things to your render queue. So for example, let's say now I want to render out this first clip. I can grab that And I'm going to grab this guy out here. A shortcut is you can just hit I and O on your keyboard. So I'll just hit O and I'm going to name it something different. So like clip 3. And then add to render queue just so I can tell the difference between them. Once these are done I'm just going to click off this one that I'd selected and hit render all. And it's going to start rendering out these videos for me. And my screen recording software is going to go really laggy because my computer is going to be really struggling. And once these videos are done rendering out, I'll have them as a single complete MP4 file on my desktop that I can watch, that I can upload and post to YouTube. Okay, this is future Marcus, by the way. Before I get all the comments, no, I just finished recording the video you're about to watch and realized my freaking shirt is inside out. This has never happened to me, and of course it happens to me the one time I record the longest non-stop video I've probably ever recorded. I don't think I've ever recorded for like over 2 hours plus without like a cut between it. But anyway, is what it is. You can roast me in the comments, but I don't care. I'm not re-recording that video. Just wanted to let you know that I'm not like mentally deteriorating to the point that I don't recognize when I'm doing something that's very socially unacceptable. I know what happened. I'm just too lazy to redo it. Anyway, with that, back to the video. Okay, let's put everything we've learned together now and actually edit a video together. You can watch over my shoulder as I edit a real YouTube video that's actually going to go live. Granted, this is a more simple video, but this will show you the process we go through, because if I was editing a more complex video, this video would be like 68 hours long. So let's get into this. I've loaded up DaVinci Resolve. Again, as you remember, first thing I'm going to do is go title project and create a new project. My DaVinci looks a bit like this because I've customized it a bit. As you know, you can drag things around, customize it. But we're going to go down to the edit tab down here, come across to editing so we can actually start editing this thing. All right, first thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually just drag in my footage. Now, I don't have that much footage, so I'm just going to drag in firstly the video directly straight onto the timeline, and I'm going to click change because I want my project settings to match the project settings of this video. Now, DaVinci is probably going to be a little bit laggy for me because I'm recording while editing this. But yeah, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a whole bunch of other things here that I'm going to be using and drag and drop those into my media pool just here. Perfect. All right. So from here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through this track, and you can see this track's loaded up now because the audio waveforms have popped up. When I'm editing a video, I like to go through all the footage once and do some basic cuts, basic editing, basic lineups of any important other footage or B-roll that I want to do. I call this a rough cut just to basically be very acquainted in my head with like the footage I'm working with, especially if I record this video like a week ago or something like that, just so I know exactly what the whole video consists of. And then I'll go through and like tidy things up on like a second round. So we're going to do the first round, and it might be useful for you to stick around for this first round as well so that you actually see what the video is about that I'm editing. On that though, this is going to be a bit of a longer video, so if you're already a proficient editor, you probably won't want to watch this particular portion. So let's do this.
But first, I want to introduce our first speaker of today, who's someone I know can relate to the struggles, and he's someone who has overcome these struggles over and over and over. He's 23 years old, and he has a YouTube channel with 300,000 subscribers and over 50 million views. So this is super relevant to all you guys who want to start a YouTube channel, by the way. He's built multiple successful online businesses, and when most of us were deciding what we...
Okay, seems like she's just talking a bunch about me, which Jade's a legend, by the way, a friend of mine. But I probably don't want to actually include all of this big prelude into the video. It's not really a very catchy, like punchy intro. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to skip forward a bit and see if I can find the bit where I actually start talking. I think maybe around here.
Thanks. How's it going? Super cool to see everyone. So I wanted to share something today.
All right, that sounds like a good line there. I wanted to share something today. It sounds like there's an intro of a video. So I'm already just going to scroll in here. I'm going to hover over here and just drag this down so I can see more. I'm actually going to hide my media pool as well so I've got a bit more room.
I wanted to share something today.
Cool. There. Seems good. Let's just quickly cut that. I would normally cut just using keyboard shortcuts like this, but I just cut that as an example to show you. But anyway, so I'm going to cut that, and we can probably get rid of everything in the beginning here and drag that back to the beginning of my timeline. Sick. There we go.
I wanted to share something today. It's a little bit niche. It's a little bit random, but maybe you'll find it interesting because it's about YouTube. When I first started, I learned a piece of advice from a guy named Trent Dreisman. I thought it was one of the dumbest things I'd ever heard, but since then, it's helped me become a full-time YouTuber. And looking back, I can see how powerful it really was. But here it is. To succeed on YouTube, or to succeed as a YouTuber, you need to be a YouTuber. Thank you, Captain Obvious, I hear you say. Next, let's go.
All right, what I might do here is we're starting to get into the actual content. And like I mentioned, during the rough cut portion, there might be sections of B-roll in some people's cases or very important overlays or structural things that you'll want to add. For me, something I'm going to be adding throughout this video are these slides. So I'm going to probably just start adding those in now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click up here, add a video track. I'm going to drag these slides down so that they're in this video track. And let's see if I can find the one I want. Here it is. Cool, so we're going to drag that back to the beginning. I dragged it, or I didn't want to. Let's just cut it. So Control X, go back to the beginning, Control V, doesn't want to do that. But this is the one I want. I right click and cut it. And I'm going to come back here and I'm going to right click and paste it into this track here.
It's helped me become a full-time YouTuber. And looking back, I can see how powerful it really was. But here it is.
Cool, so what you noticed there was I actually stuffed up what I was saying. So I said to succeed on YouTube or to succeed as a YouTuber, we can actually kind of hide that with this overlay. So here we go.
Full-time YouTuber. And looking back, I can see how powerful it really was. But here it is. To succeed on YouTube, or to succeed as a YouTuber, you need to be a
So I'm going to come in here. I can see so here it is.
But here it is.
Grab that.
Or to succeed as a YouTuber.
And let's just cut that up, join that up. And I'm going to put this here so people aren't going to actually realize I cut.
But here it is. Or to succeed as a YouTuber.
So I say or to succeed as a YouTuber. I don't know if I like that or there. Let's make this a bit bigger just so we can see our timeline. Let's see if we can cut there. Let's see how that sounds.
To succeed as a YouTuber. Here it is. To succeed as a YouTuber.
Cool. So I got rid of the or to succeed as a YouTuber bit.
To succeed as a YouTuber.
But it does sound a bit harsh. Let me see if I can drag that in maybe.
Here it is. To succeed as a YouTuber, you need to be a YouTuber.
Let me cut this out as well because there's like a big pause there and I can hide the cut with this slide I've got.
Thank you, Captain Obvious, I hear you say. Next, let's go. It makes sense, right? I didn't really get it either, but now looking back, it makes a lot of sense. So I want to kind of go over this and unpack it with you. Thank you, Captain Obvious, I hear you say. Next, let's go. It makes sense, right? I didn't really get it either, but now looking back, it makes a lot of sense.
I feel like it makes sense, right? I say it makes sense. It doesn't actually make sense. I know what I'm talking about, so I might need to cut this and just cop the rough cut.
Thank you, Captain Obvious, I hear you say. Next, let's go. I didn't really get it either, but now looking back, it makes a lot of sense. I didn't really get it either.
Maybe I can make this cut a little bit less harsh by doing like a punch in or something.
Thank you, Captain Obvious, I hear you say. Next, let's go. I didn't really get...
Maybe I can punch in on this one actually. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to go in here, zoom. Let's zoom in here, position, center myself and go up.
Thank you, Captain Obvious, I hear you say. Next, let's go. I didn't really get it either. But now looking back...
I don't know if you've noticed, but that like punch in and I punch out, it's like not perfect, but it makes it seem like it disguises the cut a little bit.
Thank you, Captain Obvious, I hear you say. Next, let's go. I didn't really get it either, but now looking back, it makes a lot of sense. So I want to kind of go over this and unpack it with you guys using an analogy Trent calls the green dot theory.
Cool, we're going to drag these a bit further forward.
So let's imagine you want to go out there and start a YouTube channel. First thing you need to do is figure out what kind of content you need to create. And so you're going to come up with your idea. Maybe it's going to be gaming, or maybe it's going to be makeup, or whatever it is. For the sake of this analogy, let's say it's green dots. You want to go out there and make green dot videos.
So using this, I can probably add a little, because I'm disguising the cuts again, like this overlay's going to help me hide this cut. So I'm going to make a cut there, probably cut this, get rid of that, join this together, and I'll cut that there.
Green dots. You want to go out there and make green dot videos. And so you get out there, you're excited.
I can probably cut even more, hey, there's a bit too much dead time.
And so you get out there, you're excited, you're pumped, you film and you edit and you record and you upload and you post and you bomb worse than KSI's latest song. Massive failure. Which is kind of sad, right? And you bomb worse than KSI's latest.
Cool, so what I'm going to do is it's the bit where it says, you're a massive failure, you bomb worse than KSI's last song. I'm going to grab this, I'm going to chuck that there.
You bomb worse.
But what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this. Let's make a copy of this. So I'm going to copy it because I want to make it feel like the slide transitioned.
Massive failure.
Cut this. I use our overlay up here to disguise this cut or hide it.
You bomb worse than KSI's latest song. Massive failure. which is kind of sad, right? And this is where a lot of people end up quitting. But some people don't quit. They
I'm going to drag these around over here now.
persist with their green dot content, and as a result, as a byproduct of persisting with green dot content, they uncover that there's like this new kind of like red dot opportunity out there.
Cool, so this is where I'm gonna need my next slide, right? So I'm gonna need to drag this over here. So it goes from green to red. The thing is though, again, in editing, what you wanna try and do is like show progression. So if I just show this, it's not actually showing progression. I actually want to try and show that red dot appearing over the suck. So I'm going to grab this and paste it here. So I want the transition to be like, okay, suck's disappearing and red dot is appearing. So that people get the feeling, okay, like this is a slideshow presentation.
They uncover that there's like this new kind of like red dot opportunity out. Green dot content. They uncover that there's like this new kind of like red dot opportunity.
All right, so I want the red dot to appear when I say red dot opportunity.
New kind of like...
Let's like join those together. So I'm going to bring those, put that there, grab this, drag this here.
Kind of like red dot opportunity.
What I don't really like is that there's this suck here still. I might see if I can actually get rid of that. I can kind of cover that over because this whole screen is white. I could cover it over with just say a white rectangle, for example. If I add a track, so add another video track above here, and then let me go to like effects, and then I'll go, not transitions. Yeah, here we go, solid color. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to effects, generators, and solid color. I'm gonna drag a solid color into the track above my footage here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use it, I'm gonna cut it down so it's only this size. Let me just drag this up so you guys can see more. And I'm also gonna drag that down just so it doesn't need to be that big. So we've got solid color here. You can see the color is currently black, which is blacking out the whole screen. What I might do is I'll change this color to white, hit OK, and then I'm going to change the size of this. So I'm going to come into here, drag it down, and then let me just drag this out. Let me position it over the suck so that hides it. So now, yeah, so that hides the suck word now, right? So people can't actually see that. Seek, let's bring that down. Cool, let's continue on.
New kind of like red dot opportunity out there.
Perfect. So I'm going to cut this, and I'm also going to use this again as an opportunity to disguise my cut and just cut out a little bit of silence that probably doesn't need to be there.
So they pivot their channel. They start making red dot videos.
So I say back here when you're in the planning phase is going to be this slide here. So I'm going to want to show that one. By the way, when I'm talking about the slides here, these are basically, I have created a presentation for this particular talk. I've just downloaded these slides and I'm using them. So again, I'm going to grab this. You can actually create a duplicate of something. I don't know if I've talked about this yet, but you can create a duplicate by holding Alt and then clicking and dragging it out. So I don't know if you just saw that, but if I click on this, hold Alt and drag it out, it creates a duplicate of it, which I use a bunch.
Now what's interesting here is back.
Cool. When I say back, that's when I want the transition of the guy to appear to indicate like back here. That's what I'm talking about.
Interesting here is back here when you were in the planning phase, you were deciding.
Drag that out a bit.
Interesting here is back here when you were in the planning phase, you were deciding what type of content you wanted to create. You didn't even know red dots. Here when you were in the planning phase, you were deciding what type of content you wanted to create.
Let's make that shorter, and then let's cut out a little bit of this dead time. Cut out some of the dead time so there's not as much pausing, but not so much that it feels like unnatural when it goes back to the regular talk.
You didn't even know red dots existed. But anyway, back to the analogy. We continue on posting red dot videos, and results are getting a little bit better, but not as good as we want them to be. Until one day we find a new opportunity. Blue dot videos.
So the new opportunity is going to be blue dot videos, which is going to be here. So I'm going to make a cut here. And it's also going to give me, again, an opportunity to cut out some of this silence.
Blue dot videos.
Again, I want to show the transition. So I'm going to grab the blue dot videos actually popping up on screen. So I'm going to grab this, chuck it here.
New opportunity. Blue dot videos. So you pivot your channel again.
Okay, let's listen to this.
Until one day we find a new opportunity. Blue dot videos.
I feel like the blue dot videos just sounds a little bit harsh. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come down to transitions. Let's do like a crossfade at 0 decibels into my audio transition there. Make it a little bit smaller.
New opportunity. Blue dot videos.
Cool, that sounds a bit better.
A new opportunity. Blue dot videos. So you pivot your...
Cool. Again, there's more silence here.
So you pivot,
I can cut out that little bit of silence there as well, and then join these together. And I'm gonna cut here over the top of my cuts.
And a new opportunity, blue dot videos. So you pivot your channel again, you start making blue dot videos and results pick up even more, then not long later you find a new opportunity. Yep.
The new opportunity, we're gonna show that as well. So I'm gonna grab the original one and then grab this. Let's find the exact moment where I say yellow.videos.
Find a new opportunity.
Cool, I say yellow.videos there. So that's where I want to show the yellow dots popping up.
Yellow dots, and you keep on going. Now, and you keep on going.
Undo that, cool.
New opportunity, yellow dots, and you keep on. Find a new opportunity, yellow dots, and you keep on going. Now, not long later, you find a new opportunity, yellow dots, and you keep on going. Now, back to the beginning. When you first started creating green dot content, you were setting out to be the best green dot creator there ever was. You didn't know yellow dots or blue dots or red dots even existed. And the process sort of continues from there, but you're probably getting the point now. Basically, if you're trying to learn or think, or you're procrastinating about starting a YouTube channel, but really this is just an analogy for anyone who is trying to do something ambitious and risky. Entrepreneurship, a business,
Give ourselves a bit of room
a
to
new
move that.
skill. To succeed, you first have to be. You have to do it.
I don't know if I had a slide for that. Let's have a look. To succeed, you have to be. Yep, cool. That is the slide I want. I'm going to grab this guy and come back to where I was. It's around here.
If you're trying to learn things,
I feel like I get really introverted when I'm editing as well. I like talk very slowly because I'm kind of like talking to myself. This is probably very different to the videos you're used to so far. Anyway.
entrepreneurship, a business, a new skill. To succeed,
Cool. This is perfect because I got this slide and I can hide out these massive pauses where I'm like awkwardly trying to remember what I'm supposed to say on stage in front of a few thousand people. Let's get rid of that. Awesome. Let's see.
new skill. To succeed, you first have to be. To succeed, you first have to be. You have to do it.
I think the you have to do it bit is kind of like obvious here, so I can kind of get rid of that.
Because the act of actually starting,
Let's cut out this whole big pause. I'm pausing for dramatic effect because I think I'm a professional speaker.
because
Let's add a little bit of a pause there though.
have to be. Because
We want it to sink in, dramatic effect.
the act of
We're going to cut out this bit of silence here, and then I think this is where we're going to go back to the video.
to succeed, you first have to be. Because the act of actually starting is not only going to build you momentum, but it's that journey itself that's going to help you uncover the opportunities that will help you get to the next level. So to give you sort of a concrete example, when I first started, I'm going to embarrass myself here, I created gaming videos. This is
Alright, let's show my gaming videos. My horrendous gaming videos.
gaming videos. That will help you get to the next level. So to give you sort of a concrete example, when I first started, I'm going to embarrass myself here, I created gaming videos. Concrete example, when I first started, I'm going to embarrass myself here, I created gaming videos. This is my first ever YouTube video. Back in 2015, I was 14 years old. And you can see a couple of things here, like the huge black bars, and you can see a couple of things here, like the huge black bars, because I didn't render it properly. The 480p footage, super blurry and gross. Audio was recorded using my Windows 7 laptop internal microphone. You can imagine how great that was. And for some reason, even though this sucked, I kept on posting videos. I actually posted 65 different videos over the course of 12 months to get a whopping, wait for this, 150 subscribers. Thank you. And so that kind of sucked. But then one day I was doing some research. I was looking for someone to collaborate with, which is sort of a thing you do where you team up with another YouTuber and you create content together to cross-promote. And I found this guy, 2Moose for You. He was a YouTuber, very small at the time, and he created gaming content.
Alright, I feel like there's a bit where I say he was a YouTuber, very small at the time. It doesn't, that's kind of...
This guy, 2Moose for You. He was a YouTuber, very small at the time, and he created gaming content, Star Wars Battlefront content, specifically funny moments type videos. I found this guy, 2Moose for You.
Maybe I can cut that there.
He was a YouTuber, very small at the time, and he created gaming content.
Maybe I can say he created...
And he created YouTuber, very small at the time, and he... I mean, he created gaming content. I mean, he created...
Let's see what that sounds like. So we'll join those together, and then let's see if we can disguise that cut by showing 2 moves for you.
cross-promote. And I found this guy, 2 moves for you. I mean, he created gaming content, Star Wars Battlefront content.
Maybe I can use a crossfade here to make that audio transition a tad less harsh.
2 moves for you. And he created gaming.
Okay, the cross that I'm probably going to need to move this slide a little bit over the cut, because if it's right on the cut, it's kind of obvious because you can see my mouth is like closed, and then immediately the next like second I'm like mid-sentence. So if I drag this over, it's gonna like people aren't gonna realize that sort of continuity error.
I mean, he created...
Cool. So also the crossfade is not too bad. I'm gonna actually make it a little bit smaller, but it adds in like a little bit of what I said previously, which actually makes it sound like I'm saying instead of like I was actually saying a word.
I mean, he created gaming content, Star Wars Battlefront content.
And he created, I say gaming content, Star Wars Battlefront content specifically. I like get into the details of weeds too much. I probably don't need to say gaming content if I'm going to say Star Wars Battlefront content, because that's kind of obvious. I'm just going to cut that out.
I mean, he created Star Wars...
I think it actually makes more sense when I was just watching this. It makes more sense to show 2 moves for you at the moment I say 2 moves for you. This is sort of like an editing principle that's like useful to know. What you usually want to do is try and make sure the audio and visuals are always in sync. So in this case, when he says 2 moves for you, I want to show 2 moves for you on the screen. If I show it like disjointed, it just kind of feels weird.
2 moves for you. I mean, he created Star Wars Battlefront...
Let's see if I can bring that down.
2 moves for you. I mean, he created Star Wars Battlefront content, specifically funny moments type videos. Seems kind of weird and specific, but when I first clicked on his video, I got hooked. I thought it was hilarious. I watched the entire thing, and then I ended up binging his entire channel when I should have been working. And while I was binging Moose's content, this thought started to bubble itself into my consciousness. Maybe I could do something like this.
I feel like I don't actually need a slide to illustrate that maybe I could do something like this. I'm going to get rid of that.
And so I did. The next week I went out there and I made Thug Life.
All right, we're going to time it again. So I say Thug Life around here. I made Thug Life. Cool. Bam. That's when our slide hits.
And I made Thug Life, Star Wars Battlefront Funtage Funny Moments Montage, which is kind of cringy, but...
All right, let's get rid of the which is kind of cringy. So let's grab that. I think that'll make more sense there.
It was kind of cringy, but for some reason it clicked. It got 2,000 views.
Probably don't need to show 2,000 views, so I'm going to get rid of that slide, bring this back.
And from there, things started to pick up. That was one of the best results I'd ever gotten on YouTube, so I kept posting those videos. I pivoted. Over the course of 6 weeks of posting these videos, my channel went from getting 15 subscribers per month.
Maybe I can show this visually, because I have slides that show this. Again, I'm showing all these visually with slides, because I've already put the effort into creating the slides, but if you were going through and actually editing this, you would just find the things that I'm, for example, showing on slide. Instead of like showing this slide that I prepared earlier, you would just find a screenshot of the video you're actually showing. Again, you want the visuals to match up with what you're actually talking about. So if you're like mentioning something and it's a significant part of the story, show it on screen. If you're describing something that's like a little bit difficult for people to imagine, show it on screen. Kind of like my video. If I just said Thug Life, Star Wars Battlefront Funtage, you probably wouldn't get as vivid a picture in your imagination as if I just showed you exactly what it was, which is what I've done here. Again, I've kind of cheat coded this a little bit to make a faster edit, because now otherwise I would have had to go and like actually manually find and download and add all these resources during the edit process. That's something that you're probably going to have to do unless you're editing very similar like presentation based videos to the ones I'm doing right now.
Battlefront Funtage Funny Moments Montage. It was kind of cringy, but for some reason...
I think I might actually add a little crossfade in here as well. Drag it down.
Moments Montage. It was kind of cringy, but for some reason it clicked. It got 2,000 views, and from there things started to pick up. That was one of the best results I'd ever gotten on YouTube, so I kept posting those videos. I pivoted, and over the course of 6 weeks of posting these videos, my channel went from getting...
Cool, let's show that. So it went from getting 15 subscribers a month.
15 subscribers per month to over 1...
Let's show that. So from 15 subscribers per month, drag the cut over to here.
Getting 15 subscribers per month to over 1,500 subscribers every single month.
There's also something I noticed here. You can kind of see that I'm looking at my script, which is not really great. So even though this pause is not bad for dramatic effect, just turn off these borders. So I'm going to go to the bit where I'm not looking at my thing. There we go. So now it looks like I'm actually just talking off the top of my head. So we'll cut that.
Every single month. In other words, I found my red dot.
Cool. Let's show the bit where I found my red dot then. So we're going to grab that. I found my red dot. Here it is. Cool. So let's grab that slide. Again, we're going to try and show the passage of time, not just by showing a slide on screen, but by actually showing the transition. So in other words, let's show that.
I found my
And then let's show the red dot. At the moment I mention red dot.
I found my red dot. And so I pivoted. I went all in on this red dot and I kept on posting this content. And then I started getting views and people reaching out to me. And one day this guy reached out to me and he was like, hey, can I edit videos for you? I was like, I guess, sure. And that was when I learned the power of like growing a team. I was like, wow, I can put out so much more content with someone helping me. So I grew a team. We ended up scaling up that channel because of that. And now the channel has around like 25 million views.
So like this isn't communicated very well on the slide. I need to show the bit where I talk about, so I grew a team and indicate that that was another dot on my dot analogy spectrum. So let's grab that.
The power of like growing a team. I was like, wow, I can put out so much more content with someone helping me. This is when I learned the power of like growing a
So growing a team is like the third dot on this analogy I'm talking about.
And that was when I learned the power of like growing a team. I was like, wow, I can put out so much more content.
And let's use this to our opportunity to disguise this little thing and a little bit of silence in there. Drag that down to like so.
And that was when I learned the power of like...
The power of like. I hate it. That's a filler word. I learned the power of like. All right, let's see if we can get rid of this like without people noticing. I just selected both of those by just holding shift and clicking on them.
The power of growing a team.
All right, it does sound a little bit messed. So let's see what happens if we add a audio transition.
Learned the power of growing a team. I was like, wow, I can put out...
Yeah, that sounds a lot better. So you can hear it like sounds before I add the audio transition. It kind of sounds obvious. There's like a cut there, but once I add the transition, it just seamlessly sort of blends into itself.
Learned the power of growing a team. The power of growing...
I think growing a team feels like it needs to come sooner.
That was when I learned the power of growing a team.
Let's drag that in.
When I learned the power of growing a team, I was like, wow, I can put out so much more content with someone. The power of growing a team. I was like, wow, I can put out so much more content with someone helping.
No brainer. Who would have guessed you could put out more content with someone actually helping you? I was a real bright spark back in the day, wasn't I?
With someone helping me. So I grew a team. We ended up scaling up that channel because of that. And now the channel has around like 25 million views. The next step from there, this process took like a couple of years. And throughout that process, I kind of fell in love with YouTube.
This is the part behind the scenes here. I'm speaking in. The last time I gave a talk like this, at that particular point, everyone clapped. They're like, woo, 25 million views. And this time I said it, everyone was silent. So I just wait. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to awkwardly transition to the next thing.
And so I decided I'm going to start a YouTube education channel, like a YouTube channel where I talk about YouTube and like how I grew my other channels.
Actually, I think, yeah, this is the proof slide where I say 25 million views. That's going to help me cut out some of this awkward silence here. So I'm going to actually drag that over.
Channel has around like 25 million views.
Cool. 25 million views. That's going to allow me to get rid of some of this awkward pausing where I'm waiting for validation I never get.
Channel has around like 25 million views. The next step from there, this process took like a couple of years. And throughout that process, I kind of fell in love with YouTube. And so I decided I'm going to start a YouTube education channel, like a YouTube channel where I talk about YouTube and like how I grew my other channels. For some reason, it clicked.
Okay, so I talk about I'm going to do a YouTube education channel. So let's show that transition. I'm going to need to grab this guy.
And so I decided I'm going to start a YouTube
YouTube is there, so that's where we're going to reveal I started a YouTube education channel. Wow.
And so I decided
all right, let's drag this over the bit where I start talking right about here. Drag that there. We're going to make a cut there, and then we're going to use it to disguise.
And throughout that process, I kind of fell in love with YouTube.
All of this bit.
I kind of fell in love with YouTube. And so I decided I'm going to start...
All right, so I need to actually drag that a little bit more because you see, if you watch the preview window here, it's really obvious that I make the cut, right? Because my mouth is shut.
And so I decided...
And then it like jumps to like 1 second later, I'm like mid-sentence. So I need to drag that out a tad.
And so I decided I'm going to start a YouTube education channel, like a YouTube channel where I talk about YouTube and like how I grew my other channels. For some reason, it clicked. Grew my other channels. For some reason, it clicked. And people started reaching out to me as a result of that channel, being like, "Hey, like, can I pay you to help me grow my channel?"
That's the world's most clumsily worded sentence.
And I was like, "Sure, I guess why not?" And now I'm in a place where I recently started a software company.
Recently started software company. That's the final dot on the hero's journey, if you could call me such a person, which I don't think you can.
I'm in a place where I recently started a software company. It's called Valio.
Software company, I start saying that there, so I'm going to drag that there.
Place where I recently started a software company. It's called Valio.
So I say I recently started a software company. It's called Valio. I could probably just have it say, I recently started a software company called Valio. That would be a much more efficient way of using the English language, Marcus.
I recently started a software company called Valio.
It sounds weird, the pause though. Let's see if we can blend this together a little bit. So grab that. Now this is going to sound really harsh again.
Software company called Valio.
But we're going to use our magical crossfade to hide that harshness.
Software company called Valio basically helps YouTube. Software company called Valio basically helps YouTubers generate viral video ideas. And to give you a rough idea of kind of where we're at, on a conversation I had with Murray, who you just heard from, who's Director of Entrepreneurship at UTS, one of the most respected people in the startup space. He called it, quote, one of the fastest growing 2-month-old startups he's ever seen in his life. And now as a result of this whole journey, I have the privilege to be able to do what I love every day, have the freedom to do it from a laptop, and I can travel the world. And this probably seems like I'm bragging here, but I'm trying to share this to illustrate the power of the green dot theory. If it wasn't for my YouTube education channel, I couldn't have started Valio, my software company. If it wasn't for growing a dot theory. If it wasn't for my YouTube education channel, I couldn't have started Valio, my software company. If it wasn't for...
I think this slide's going to maybe make sense.
If it wasn't for my YouTube education channel...
Maybe what I'm going to do is like a reverse build. Actually, maybe I can do a
I
highlight.
couldn't have started Valio, my software company. If it wasn't for...
Okay, so I think what I'm going to do here is I'll do this on the next pass through is I'm talking about all the different sort of like steps in my journey. What I might do is I'll actually like do some sort of animation and like highlight them, but we will leave that slide there and we'll do that later.
Was Battlefront content and getting views on that, I wouldn't have had people reach out and I would have known that growing a team was even an option. But if I hadn't have just started in the very beginning, I wouldn't have had those views and I would never have learned that like growing a team was even a thing. And so I guess if I could suggest something to you, if you're thinking about content creation or just doing anything that's kind of ambitious but a little bit risky, it would be just start. And I know it sounds cliche and I know it's what everyone says, but hopefully through this analogy you've kind of come to terms with the fact that the journey itself is the thing that reveals the opportunities to you that will take you to where you want to be. And when you get there, hopefully you'll be in a place where you're able to live your dream life, and as a result of that, you can also hopefully go out there and impact a lot of other people too in a very positive way. So that's me. My name is Marcus. Thank you very much.
All right, Marcus.
Thank you.
That is completely wonderful. Like Marcus.
Thank you.
All right, let's cut that. I think we don't need all the rest of that, him just talking. Cool. Something I did notice here though.
Go out there and impact a lot of other people too.
I like trail off and like impact a lot. You can't actually hear what I say. So we're going to do some like little basic audio editing in here. You remember how like change volume? We're going to use keyframes to change the volume at the specific part I want. So I'm going to hold down Alt. I'm going to click on this.
A lot of other
Let's add a volume keyframe here. There we go.
a lot of other people too in a very positive way.
In this talk, I gradually decrease the volume that I'm actually talking at. What I'm going to try and do then with keyframes is manually kind of balance that out. So
Impact a lot of other people too in a very positive way.
So let's see, let's make a cut there. And let's see if we can add another keyframe right about here. Drag this guy up to get louder. So now I should actually get louder gradually.
Impact a lot of other people too in a very positive way. Impact a lot of other people too in a very positive way.
It sounds all right, but like I feel like I need to add another keyframe because if you listen to it, I don't gradually at a perfect straight line talk quieter. I like talk quieter quickly and then continue talking quieter. So to account for that,
A lot of other people too in a very positive way. A lot of other people too in a very positive way.
All right, so let's see if we can go here, add another keyframe, and we'll just like add a little bit of, drag that up like that.
Go out there and impact a lot of other people too in a very positive way.
Drag that down a bit maybe.
Impact a lot of other people too in a very positive way.
Cool, so that's not too noticeable, right? So you're listening to this.
You can also hopefully go out there and impact a lot of other people too in a very positive way.
Yeah, cool, no one would notice that. But now they can actually understand what I say, which is good, well, depending on your opinion. It's good for me if you like what I say.
So that's me. My name is Marcus. Thank you very much.
All right, Marcus.
All right, cool. So we've gone through and we've done our rough cut. Let's see how long our video is. Our video is 7 minutes and 40 seconds. Sick. So we cut down a lot of things things. We positioned a bunch of things. Now let's go through and actually start doing some like proper editing to this. So I think some things I'm going to want to do is I'm going to add maybe some punch-ins throughout, and like punch-ins and punch-outs, just to keep it a bit more engaging in the long stretches, or when I'm making like a key point. I'm also going to, just based on what I've seen, I think I need to add some sound effects at certain times. The microphone doesn't really pick up people, like the audience's reactions very well here. Nearly, or maybe even over 2,000 people here. And like at the time at the event, it felt kind of loud, but the microphone is like right attached to my mouth, so it doesn't really pick up the audience very well. So I might need to add in some sound effects to make it feel a bit more engaging. And then I'm also going to do some animating up here later to animate this portion to make it a little bit more interesting and tell the story a little bit better. So let's go through and start doing that. The first thing I think we might do,
I want to share something today. It's a little bit niche, it's a little bit random, but I want to share something today.
when I'm using sound effects, sometimes what I might do is I'll actually use sound effects from the audio that's being recorded. So if I grab this and drag it out, let's make the cut there just so I remember that's where my start point is.
Please join me in welcoming to the stage.
Thanks, Jade.
So you can hear the clapping kind of like fading out there.
Join me in welcoming Marcus Radici-Jones to the stage.
We got Jade clapping with her paper.
Thanks, Jade.
And I got thanks, Jade. I might use this portion here. Let's grab this and we're going to add this in, not just for my ego, although that could be one reason why I'm doing this, but if I add the clapping in, it's going to help the audience understand a little bit about what the setting is. Like, am I just on a stage talking to myself here, or are there actually people? If they immediately hear me start talking, they see I'm on a stage and they hear clapping, they're like, oh, I get this. This is like a public talk. So
How's it going?
let's get rid of that, where I ask how's it going and everybody ignores me. Let's go this one. Cool, so I'm going to grab that. I'm going to add in an audio track. So I'm going to right click, add a track. I'm going to add a mono track. And let's drag our audio down into there, and we'll drag this up just so we can interact with this a bit. So I might drag this out a tad, and let's drag our audio here.
I want to share something today. It's a little bit. I want to share something today.
All right, cool. So can you hear that? Now it's like,
I want to share something today. It's a little bit neat. I want to share something today. It's a little bit
cool. Clapping there, people can hear it. Like viewers like, oh, it's like an audience. And it also doesn't impact with my speaking, which is good.
It's a little bit random, but maybe you'll find.
I might make it a little bit louder in the beginning and then have it fade out. So let's grab this, drag it down. Again, we're going to come and turn on keyframes, and we'll chuck a keyframe at the end here. Let's go to our first one, and then we'll just make it a little bit louder just to make it sound like people actually enjoy me speaking, when in reality everyone knows they don't. But don't worry, I'm not depressed. I just enjoy self-deprecating humor. Listen to this.
I want to share something today. I want to share something today. It's a little bit niche.
Maybe a bit too loud. It's a bit too enthusiastic. Maybe up here we'll go 4, just 4.
I want to share something today. It's a little bit.
Cool, sounds good. All right, let's keep going.
It's a little bit random, but maybe you'll find it interesting because it's about YouTube. When I first started, I learned a piece.
I might punch in here because there's a pause, and then also
You'll find it interesting because it's about YouTube.
Also, I'm kind of in a similar position here. So you can see I'm kind of like in the same position. It's going to make the punch in easier. It's going to make it feel more seamless. So let's cut that out, and let's punch this guy in a little bit.
When I first started, I learned a piece of advice from a guy named Trent Dreisman. I thought it was one of the dumbest things I'd ever heard. A guy named Trent Dreisman.
All right, let's see what happens if I zoom in on this guy. So I'm going to go back to my video effects. Zoom in. Let's go up a bit.
Because it's about YouTube. When I first started, I learned a piece of advice from a guy named Trent Dreisman. I thought it was one of the dumbest things I'd ever heard.
Cool, that's like pretty seamless. I think most people won't actually notice that.
When I...
Actually, I'm looking up, I'm looking down, looking up, looking down. I think it's the step. The step's what's killing it. So can you see how like I'm here, I'm about to take a step, and then it like teleports and I like am taking a step? Let's see if we can drag that out a little bit. So I take the step and then we walk. All right, that might make it flow a bit better.
Maybe you'll find it interesting because it's about YouTube. There
we go. That like flows better. It's like you notice it when you know it's happening, but if you're a viewer, you're probably not going to actually notice.
It's a little bit niche. It's a little bit random, but maybe you'll find it interesting because it's about YouTube. When I first started, I learned a piece of advice from a guy named Trent Dreisman. I thought it was one of the
So one thing I did notice is like I'm center screen, but then the screen like pans across too much. So we might have to manually counteract this a bit. So let's add like a keyframe here for position, and then go to here, which is where it pans across to, and another keyframe. Let's just adjust the position slightly. Bring me back into the center.
When I first started, I learned a piece of advice from a guy named Trent Dreisman.
Cool, so it's there. It comes across, people don't notice.
When I first started, I learned a piece of advice from a guy named Trent Dreisman. I thought it was one of the dumbest things I'd ever heard, but since then, it's helped me become a full-time YouTuber. And looking back, I can see how powerful it really was. But here it is. Just, it is a YouTuber, you need to be a YouTuber. Thank you, Captain Obvious, I hear you say. Next, let's go. I didn't really get it either, but now looking back, it makes a lot.
Okay, this cut here I think is a little bit too harsh in hindsight. This is why it's useful to watch. A lot of editing is just like watching your edits multiple times and realizing that you're actually worse of an editor than you think you are. So let me do that and drag, oh, that's not good. We'll drag this side out.
I didn't really get it either. Let's go. I didn't really get it either. Let's go.
Actually, I don't know if there's a way we can disguise that.
Next, let's go. I didn't really get it either, but now looking back, it makes a lot of sense. So I want to kind of, let's go. Next, let's go. I didn't really get it either, but now looking back, it makes a lot of sense. So I want to kind of go over, next, let's go. I didn't really get it either, but now looking back, it makes a lot of sense. So I want to kind of go over this and unpack it with you guys using, next, let's go. I didn't really get it either, but now looking back, it makes a lot of sense. So I want to kind of go over this and unpack it with you guys using an analogy Trent calls the green dot theory. So let's imagine you want to go out there and start a YouTube channel. First thing you need to do is figure out what kind of content you need to create. And so you're going to come up with your idea. Maybe it's going to be gaming, or maybe it's going to be makeup, or whatever it is. For the sake of this analogy, let's say it's green dots.
All right, I think it's actually going to be nicer if I have the green dot appear.
It's green dot.
So let's do the trick we did earlier. So we're going to use the color thing to hide it. So where's our color one? There it is. We already have white, so let's grab that. I'll bring this over here, paste that in.
Green dots, green dot, green dots.
All right, so I'm gonna click on that. I'm gonna bring this up and let's hide our green dot just so people don't know it's there.
Let's say it's green dots. It's green dots.
Let's have it appear a little bit earlier actually, just so it feels like it's a slideshow, so it's not perfectly in sync, but it's like pretty much there.
It's green dots. You want to go out there and make green dot videos. And so you get out there, you're excited, you're pumped, you film and you edit and you record and you upload and you post and you bomb worse. You want to go out there and make green dot video.
What I might do, let's just grab this video track, sorry, and we'll drag it up here, put it there where it's supposed to be.
You want to go out there and make green dot.
But let's make it a little bit smaller and chuck it in the corner. Cool. Maybe, actually I might bring it across a bit. Or should I chuck it there? I don't know, where do I want this? Middle of the screen, there, bottom corner. Let's try the middle actually and align it with the green dot. Like there maybe.
You want to go out there and make...
Maybe we'll add like a fade transition into this just so it doesn't feel so harsh. Video transition, let's go. Let's try an additive dissolve, which is going to be just like a fade.
You want to go out there and make green dot videos. And so you get out there, you want to go out there and make green...
Actually, I feel like it does need to be brought across a bit.
You want to go out there and make green dot videos. And so you get out there, you want to go out there and make green dot videos. And so you get out there, you're excited, you're pumped, you...
Right, let's watch that and see what it looks like.
This analogy, let's say it's green dots. You want to go out there and make green dot videos. And so you get out there, you're excited, you're pumped, you film and you edit and you record and you upload and you post and you bomb worse than KSI's latest song. Massive failure.
So here, you can't actually really hear it, but the audience are all like, ooh. What I would ideally do is try and exaggerate the sound. Okay, let's see if I can actually make the sound effect itself, or like exaggerate the sound from the stadium.
KSI's latest song.
Let me just grab this. Oh, that's not what I want to do. I'm just gonna go out here, paste it, and let's see.
Massive.
Let's just grab this. If I make this a lot louder, can we hear anything?
Massive failure.
So you can hear people reacting, right? But it's just not very loud. So you can hear the oh there.
Massive failure.
Maybe I can blend these two together. What's the volume on this? This is 29. If I grab this and then bring this to 29 or 28, maybe I can then grab a audio crossfade.
Failure. Massive.
Oof. I need to get rid of the massive. I can't edit apparently. Maybe it's on this side. Oof, there it is. You can see my massive audio peak. Alright, let's delete that and then drag in the crossfade. Drag this down a bit. That's kind of okay. Let's grab that and let's see what this sounds like if we can grab this audio and then chuck it back where it needs to go, which is somewhere around here, I think.
And calls the green dot theory. They persist with their green dot content. You up and you post and you bomb worse than KSI's latest song.
Alright, there is the line. I'm going to select this track. Let's see if I can paste it in here. No, it's not going to want me to do that. Alright, what I'm going to do, paste, drag down, and then I'll drag this back. And I've got my audio effect here.
KSI's latest song. Massive failure. Massive failure. Massive.
So the O is kind of here in this. So let's cut that. Let's bring this here.
KSI's latest. Massive. KSI's latest.
And let's fade that in like so. Fade it out.
Than KSI's latest song. Massive latest song. Massive failure.
Alright, I think I need to make the overall volume of these guys quieter. So let's go 20.
Massive failure. KSI's latest song. Massive failure. Than KSI.
Let's go 25.
KSI's latest song. Massive failure. KSI's latest song. KSI's latest song. Massive failure.
Maybe it needs to be a little bit further forward. Alright, let's listen to this and see if you can tell.
You post and you bomb worse than KSI's latest song. Massive failure.
Right, the fade out needs to be longer. It's kind of obvious. There's me.
Which is kind of failure. Massive failure.
Okay, yes.
Which is kind of failure.
Okay, I think we need to make this overall thing quieter. Let's bring that back down to, let's try like 23.
Latest song. Massive failure. Which is kind of
We need quieter because it's unfortunately
latest song. Massive failure. Which
alright, it's not too bad. It's not perfect, but it's okay. Like you can kind of hear the audience a lot better now.
you bomb worse than KSI's latest song.
Something I do need to do though, I just noticed, is I think I'm gonna make the joke louder.
It's later than KSI's latest.
So let's chuck that there. We'll chuck a keyframe there. I'm just holding Alt and clicking.
His latest song.
We'll drag that up.
KSI's latest song. Massive failure. Worse than KSI's latest song. Matt bomb worse than KSI's latest song. Massive failure. Which is kind of sad, right? And this is where a lot of people end up quitting. But some people don't quit.
Maybe what I can do, because it feels like weird being so short, right? So what I might do is I might actually grab this. I'm going to duplicate this out like this. And then I will... lost myself. Then I will join these together and I'll grab this. I'll bring that back to where it is. And let's grab a crossfade and chuck a really big crossfade on this guy.
Massive failure. Massive failure. Which is kind of sad. Which is kind of failure. Which is
I don't know which... Where's the witch? It's there. We're gonna get him. Let's bring this back then and try bringing our crossfade in.
which is kind of
Someone's got a weird laugh that like ruins it. Let's drag.
which is when you up and you post and you bomb worse than KSI's latest song. Massive failure. Which is kind of
Alright, it fades out too quickly, which is annoying. So what I might do is I'll grab this whole thing and I'll right click on it and then I will go, how do I do this? I think new compound clip. Cool, so I've just gone new compound clip. What this means is I've converted this whole thing into just one clip.
massive failure.
And now I can then fade this out better.
KSI's latest song. Massive failure.
Alright, cool that. Let's bring the volume up a bit now and see what that sounds like.
Massive failure. Which is kind of
That's kind of too obvious. Let's see if we bring that to a 4. This is what a lot of editing is. It's just like playing around with values and like seeing what feels and sounds natural.
and you bomb worse than KSI's latest song. Massive failure. Which is kind of sad. Right? You bomb worse than KSI's latest song. Massive failure.
3.
And you bomb worse than KSI's latest song. Massive failure.
Alright, let me turn this up. Just need to reach over.
Post and you bomb worse than KSI's latest song. Massive failure. Which is kind of sad, right? And this is where
Okay, so this is the value I've settled on. I've turned the volume down to a 3 and this I've added a bit of a fade in and let's hear what this sounds like.
and you bomb worse than KSI's latest song. Massive failure. Which is kind of sad, right? And this is where a lot of people end up quitting. But some people don't quit. They persist with their green dot. And
Right.
this is where a lot of people end up quitting. But some people don't quit.
But some people don't quit. It's like a change of pace, almost like a change of topic. Like I've been talking about quitting and failing, and then I'm like, some people don't quit. And sometimes that's a good place to like add in some sort of visual change. So I think I'm actually going to grab this guy, and then let's use this opportunity to cut out a little bit of this silence like this, and we'll grab that, join that together, and then let's use this now to punch in a bit.
But some people don't quit. But some people don't quit. But some people don't quit. They persist with their content, and as a result, as a byproduct of persisting with green dot content, they uncover that there's like this new kind of
Yeah, I think we can probably punch in on this whole thing. So let's go back to our video effects. Let's zoom in a tad on me. We'll position me in like somewhere near the center.
But some people don't quit. They persist with their
That's not good. So here I'm kind of center, then here I'm not. What's going on? So there to there. So what's happening, right? So if you look at where my mouse is on the screen right now, this is where my eyes are. And if I go to there, you can see my eyes aren't in the same position. That makes it feel a little bit jarring. So what I actually need to do is just drag this across so the eyes are more aligned. There we go. That's going to feel better.
And this is where a lot of people end up quitting. But some people don't quit. A lot of people end up quitting. But some people don't quit. They persist with their green dot.
All right, cool. So some people don't quit. I'm center. Now I go off center. So it's like a keyframe there that needs to be added. So let's animate this a bit. So let's add our keyframe here, and then let's go across to where it kind of goes out. So there. Let's add a keyframe here, and then let's just drag that guy across so I'm back in the center.
They persist with their green dot content, and as a result, as a byproduct of
Feels like my head's got like a little bit too much height as well.
quit.
So maybe we'll add like so there's a keyframe there, keyframe here. Let's add like slight Y change as well. So let's bring me slightly up.
Don't quit. They persist with their green dot content, and as a result, as a byproduct of persisting with green dot content, they uncover that there's like this new kind of like red dot opportunity out there.
Cool. There's this.
Content. They uncover that there's like this new kind of like red dot opportunity. Kind of like
Oh, there's the suck. Let's get rid of the suck.
new kind of like red dot opportunity out there. So they pivot their channel, they start making red dot videos, and results pick up a little bit. Now what's interesting here is back here when you were in the planning phase, you were deciding what type of content you wanted to create, you didn't even know red dots existed.
I feel like this needs to be brought out a little bit.
Deciding what type of content you wanted to create, you didn't even know red dots existed. But anyway, back to the analogy. We continue on posting red dot videos, and results are getting a little bit better, but not as good as we want them to be. Until one day we find a new opportunity, blue dot videos. So you
I feel like the new opportunity, we need to let that have a bit more breathing room.
until one day we find a new opportunity, blue dot video.
We find
A new
let's do it there.
we find a new opportunity, blue dot videos. So you pivot your channel again, you start making blue dot videos, and results pick up even more. Then not long later, you find a new opportunity, yellow dots, and you keep on going. Now, not long later, you find a new
Let's do it new. When I say new opportunity, I'll show the screen.
opportunity, yellow dots, and you keep on going. Now, and you keep on going. Now, yellow dots, and you keep on going. Now, back to the beginning, when you first started creating green dot content, you were setting out to be the best green dot creator there ever was. You didn't know yellow dots or blue dots or red dots even existed. And the process sort of continues from there. But you're probably getting the point now. Basically, if you're trying to learn or think, or you're procrastinating about starting a YouTube channel, but really this is just an analogy for anyone who is trying to do something.
Okay, this is like a long stretch of like uninterrupted footage. So maybe but really I'll punch in a bit.
And the process sort of continues from there. But you're probably getting the point now. Basically, if you're trying to learn or think, or you're procrastinating about starting a YouTube channel, but
Let's punch on the butt.
starting a YouTube channel, but
Here, let's add in a zoom keyframe, and we'll add a position keyframe as well. And we'll go one frame forward. Let's add our zoom and position keyframes again, and then let us punch in a bit. And we'll just drag me up a tad.
really, this is just a
Let's just make sure our keyframes are okay. So from there, to there, to there. That's all right.
Really, this is just an analogy.
So what I would ideally do is I would kind of find a consistent punch-in value and then like punch in the same amount every time I'm punching in, just so it's not like very inconsistent. But this camera kind of keeps zooming in, zooming out a bit. I get further away, closer. So I kind of just like not worrying too much, especially because this feels like a handheld camera. Like if the zoom distance isn't the same every single time, it's not too big of an issue. But if I was like editing a video like the one you're watching right now, I would try and keep the punch in distance, like the zoom in distance, consistent.
Anyone who is trying to do something ambitious and risky, entrepreneurship, a business, a new skill.
I kind of start walking off screen a little bit here because the cameraman's fallen asleep. So let's add our keyframes in.
Entrepreneurship, a business, a new skill.
And let's add our position keyframe in, and we'll just drag me a little bit across. So I'm back in the center. There we go.
About starting a YouTube channel, but really this is just an analogy for anyone who is trying to do something ambitious and risky. Entrepreneurship, a business, a new skill. To succeed, you first have to be. Because the act of actually starting is not only going to build you momentum, but it's that journey itself that's going to help you uncover. The act of actually starting is not only going to build you because the act of actually starting is not only going to build you momentum, but it's that journey itself.
I wonder if I could cut this out, right? So it says the act of actually starting, but it's that journey itself.
Let's
see what it looks like. Let's see what happens if I delete this, bring this in.
But it's that journey, because it's that journey itself that's going to be. Because it's that journey itself that's going to help you uncover. To succeed, you first have to be. Because it's that journey itself that's going to help you uncover the opportunities that will help you get to the next level.
I think that actually sounds better, right? So like it kind of cut out a bit of fluff of what I was saying.
Because it's that journey itself that's going to help you uncover.
It's actually pretty good, but I'm going to add a very slight crossfade just in case.
But it's that journey itself that's going to help you uncover the opportunities that will help you get to the next level. So to give you sort of a concrete example, when I first started, I'm going to embarrass myself here, I created gaming videos. This is my first ever YouTube video. Back in 2015, I was 14 years old, and you can see a couple of things here, like the huge black bars because I didn't render it.
Okay, I feel like if we just stay on this static screen for too long, it's going to get boring. But I'm kind of like looking up at the screen here. Like I'm not really looking at. Maybe what I can do, let's drag this up here and let's add a solid color. So we're going to go to generators and we're going to go color, solid color. Let's bring that in here. And then for the solid color, let's make it white. Okay, cool. And then let's make this smaller and like move it across or something. And then we'll add me to the bottom.
The huge black bars because I didn't render it properly. The 480p footage, super blurry and gross. Audio was recorded using my Windows 7 laptop into 480p footage, super blurry and gross.
Let's drag that in. Let's make a cut here, and then we'll just make a cut here just to make things easier. Sometimes it's easier to like segment your footage when you're keyframing it. I'm gonna grab this, and let's just create a new track up here. Cool. Now let's position this down here, maybe like that.
The huge black bars because
it kind of feels like now, right, the way my head's turned, it kind of feels like I'm looking at it almost.
The 480p footage, super blurry and gross. Audio was recorded using my Windows 7 laptop internal microphone. You can imagine how great that was. The huge black bars, 14 years old. And you can see a couple of things here, like this is my first ever YouTube video. Back in 2015, I was 14 years old.
All right, maybe we can drag this out to here now. Yeah, and let's drag these two things out as well. So we'll drag that there, drag this out, but you're going this way. Sweet.
This is my first ever YouTube video. Back in 2015, I was 14 years old. And you can see a couple of things here, like the ever YouTube video. Back in 2015, I was 14 years old.
Maybe we'll cut on the end R. Sometimes like cutting on the sounds actually makes it better.
14 years old. And you can see a couple of things here, like the huge black bars because I didn't render it properly. The 480p footage, super blurry and gross. Audio was recorded using my Windows 7 laptop internal microphone.
Let's watch that again, just make sure we're happy with it.
Gaming videos. This is my first ever YouTube video. Back in 2015, I was 14 years old. And you can see a couple of things here, like the huge black bars because I didn't render it properly. The 480p footage, super blurry and gross. Audio was recorded using my Windows 7 laptop internal microphone. You can imagine how great that was. And for some reason, even though this sucked, I kept on posting videos. I actually posted 65 different videos over the course of 12 months to get a whopping, wait for this, 150 subscribers. Thank you.
So there's the clapping. I might actually add some clapping in to exaggerate it a bit. We can maybe use the clapping from the end, and then we grab the clapping from the beginning. So I'm just going to mark this area. I'm just going to hit M on my keyboard to mark it just so I can come back to it easy. Also, I'm going to scroll down just so I can see the footage. So we have our clapping at the beginning. We've added our clapping sound effect here. That's like the ending of clapping. Let's grab that there. And then we have some clapping at the end of the video, as far as I'm aware.
So that's this. Thank you very much.
All right, there's clapping here. Let's drag this down and then we'll copy it. Oh, cut it, sorry. Let's grab that, come back to our marker, about here, paste that in, and then let's see if we can kind of like Frankenstein these together a bit to make it sound like the clapping starts and ends, and just make it a little bit louder, sound more engaging.
For some reason, even though this sucked, I kept on posting videos. I actually posted 65 different videos over the course of 12 months to get a whopping, wait for this, 150 subscribers.
All right, people start clapping.
Thank you. All right. And so that kind of...
All right, we need to get rid of the all right, obviously. Grab that, grab that. Let's tidy this up a bit now. We're getting closer to the final. So let's add our crossfade in. Let's fade this in just a tad.
Thank you. And so that kind of sucked.
All right, I think we need to make this a little bit shorter just because it's picking up the guy saying all right. So let's cut that, bring that in, grab our crossfade.
And so that kind of sucked.
All right, so this whole thing needs to now be made a little bit quieter, I think. We're gonna right click on this, we're gonna create a new compound clip, we're gonna go create, and then let's adjust the volume of this guy. Let's bring that to a 4.
Thank you. And so that kind of sucked. But then one day I was doing some research.
Cool.
I was looking for
That's
someone
good.
to collaborate with, which is sort of a thing you do where you team up with another YouTuber and you create content together to cross-promote. And I found this guy, 2Moose4U. I mean, he created Star Wars Battlefront content, specifically funny moments type videos. Seems kind of weird and specific, but when I first clicked on his video, I got hooked. I thought it was hilarious. I watched the entire thing, and then I ended up binging his entire channel when I should have been working.
All right, bit of audio cleaning up needs to be done there. You can hear this kind of hard to hear me here, right?
I thought it was hilarious. I watched the entire thing, and then I ended up binging his entire channel when I should have been working.
So the when I should have been working, let us make that a bit louder. So I'm gonna click into here. Let's add a keyframe. And let's add another keyframe here just to hold. And then we'll add another keyframe here and maybe another one here. And let's drag this guy up.
Binging his entire channel when I should have been working.
All right, that sounds a bit easier here. Although it does get my big sniff in there, which is a little bit annoying. So I might actually grab that, bring that down. Okay, so this needs to be less.
When I should have been working. And while I was binging Moose's content, this thought started to bubble itself into my consciousness. Maybe I could do something like this. And so I did. The next week I went out there and I made Thug Life, Star Wars Battlefront Funtage Funny Moments Montage. It was kind of cringy.
It feels obvious that there was a cut there, right? So I think I might need to make this whole thing drag it out a little bit. So let me just grab everything and then just drag it out. And then we'll come back here. Let's drag this bit.
Montage. It's montage. It was kind of cringe. It's montage.
I think I need some audio editing here as well.
Star Wars Battlefront Funtage Funny Moments Montage.
All right, let's add ourselves a keyframe in here, and we'll add a keyframe in here because I get gradually quieter, and we'll just drag this up a tad.
Next week I went out there and I made Thug Life, Star Wars Battlefront Funtage Funny Moments Montage. It was kind of cringy. And one day this guy reached out to me and he was like, hey, can I edit videos for you? And I was like, I guess, sure.
All right, the I guess sure is a bit quiet as well. Let's make that louder. And then bring this guy up. bring that up to there.
I guess, sure.
Cool, that's better.
YouTube channel where I talk about YouTube and like how I grew my other channels. For some reason it clicked, and people started reaching out to me as a result of that channel, being like, hey, like, can I pay you to help me grow my channel? And I was like, sure, I guess, why not?
Sure, I guess, why not? It's quiet.
Sure, I guess.
Let's bring that one up a little bit.
Sure, I guess, why not? And now I'm in a place where I recently started a software company called Velio. It basically helps YouTubers generate viral video ideas.
Called Velio is a bit harsh.
I recently started a software company called Velio.
Maybe we can make this a little bit more.
I recently started a software company called Velio. It basically helps YouTubers generate viral video ideas. And to give you a rough idea of kind of where we're at, on a conversation I had with Murray.
All right, so I'm just going to grab this bit where Murray's talking. Now grab that. We actually can get rid of the audio here. We don't really care about that. I just want a clip of him talking to me. Let's just grab this, and we'll bring this over to our marker. And the conversation I had.
And to give you a rough idea of kind of where we're at, on a conversation I had with Murray. You just heard from, who's one.
All right, so let's cut out this awkward pause now. Who you just heard from. Bring that in.
Who you just heard from, who's one director of entrepreneurship.
Who's director of entrepreneurship. Let's get.
Heard from, who's director of entrepreneurship at UTS. On a conversation I had with Murray.
I might do a slide transition here because this is a transition away from the primary footage. So I want to make it feel like kind of interesting. Let's try a slide. I'm actually going to cut out the who you just heard from because they're not going to know.
You just heard from who?
Because the people watching this video have not just heard from Murray, so it's not going to be relevant to them. I've got two who's in here, so let's try and get rid of one of them so I don't sound like an owl.
With Murray, who's director of entrepreneurship.
Alright, cool, that sounds pretty good. And let's just add in some crossfades just to make it sound nice and natural.
With Murray, who's director of entrepreneurship at UT.
Alright, let's at this point punch in on him and then we'll show like a text next to him or something. Here, we're going to go video. Let's open this up, bring it here, here.
Who's director of entrepreneurship at UTS.
People also don't know who UTS is. I need to find a creative way to sort of illustrate this guy has status. I'm going to need some text to chuck on screen. So let's grab some text. Yeah, I think this actually could work. So let's go director of entrepreneurship. And then for the large text, what if we bring that down? Okay, that's not bad. I think it's a little bit kind of hard to see. Maybe I actually need to put his name. Just fits on the screen a bit better. All right, we've got that. Can we move that somewhere more fitting, like this?
UTS, one of the most. UTS, one of the most.
The problem is it doesn't stand out very well. Maybe we can give it like a stroke. So I'm going to go to filters and I'm going to go drop shadow. And I'm going to just drag this over here. Already that stands out a bit better, hey, with the drop shadow. Let's make the strength stronger. So you can see how it stands out with the drop shadow more. Drop distance, let's bring that back a bit. And blur. Let's turn the blur down just so we can play around with it a bit. The way we want. Unblur it a bit, maybe like this. This isn't perfect. I could be playing around with this for ages. Right, so here's what our final effect looks like.
On a conversation I had with Murray, who's director of entrepreneurship at UTS.
So I could basically custom animate this. I could add multiple layers of text and then manually keyframe them across, but that would take me like another 20 minutes at the rate I'm going, and I can't be bothered doing that. So for now, I'm just going to use this pre-built template.
Murray, who's director of entrepreneurship at UTS, one of the most respected people in the startup space. He called it, quote, one of the fastest growing 2-month-old startups he's ever seen in his life. And now as a result of this whole journey,
let's see if we can cut some of that out and punch in at the same time.
I have the privilege to be able to do what I love every day. I have the freedom to do it from a laptop and I can travel the world. And
All right, I'm just going to cut this. I'm going to use this clip to punch in a bit. So let's just punch in a tad and bring that across a tad, bring us up a tad.
Whole journey. I have the privilege to be able to do what I love every day. I have the freedom to do it from a laptop, and I can travel the world. And this probably seems like I'm bragging here, but I'm trying to share this to illustrate the power of the green dot theory. If it wasn't for my YouTube education channel...
What I'm trying to do is I'm talking and I'm like, if I wasn't for my YouTube education channel, I couldn't have started Velio. The problem is that I could add animations on here. So what I'd ultimately think would be cool, if I added like, if I didn't start my YouTube education channel, then I indicated it with like an arrow or a circle or something like that. And then I'm like, I wouldn't have been able to start Velio. Then I like cross Velio out, or maybe I like add like white over the top of Velio so that you can't see it anymore. It kind of like implies that it would no longer exist. The problem is this is a PowerPoint presentation. For the style of video this is, it's probably not going to suit it because people are going to be like, oh, hang on a sec. I thought this was a PowerPoint presentation the whole way through. I think I'm probably just going to leave this whole thing. I'm going to delete it.
Oh, I couldn't have started Valio, my software company. If it wasn't for growing a team and learning how to grow my gaming channels, I wouldn't have had the credibility to start a YouTube education channel. If it wasn't for my Star Wars Battlefront content and getting views on that, I wouldn't have had people reach out, and I would have known that growing a team was even an option. But if I hadn't have just started in the very beginning, I wouldn't have had those views, and I would never have learned that like growing a team was even a thing. And so I guess if I could suggest something to you, if you're thinking about content creation or just doing anything that's kind of ambitious but a little bit risky, it would be...
All right, I think I need to emphasize this point. So I think I'm going to use the final one where it's like, just start.
Just start. And I know it sounds cliche, and I know it's what everyone says. It would be just start. And I know it sounds cliche, and I know it's what everyone says, but hopefully through this analogy, it would be just start. And I know it sounds cliche, and I know it's what everyone says, but hopefully through this analogy, you've kind of come to terms with the fact that the journey itself is the...
Cool. I'm going to save this because I just realized that I've been creating this whole project, haven't saved it once, and almost lost like 2 hours of work accidentally. So we're going to save this UTS talk.
Hopefully you'll be in a place where you're able to live your dream life, and as a result of that, you can also hopefully go out there and impact a lot of other people too in a very positive way. So that's me. My name is Marcus. Thank you very much.
All right. Marcus.
Thank you.
All right, let's fade this out gradually. Just have a nice cinematic fade out.
All right. Marcus.
Thank you.
That is...
Cool. All right, this video is pretty much done, I think. Again, this isn't the perfect, most meticulously edited video. Based on how I'm editing this right now, this is basically, I think, like the 80-20. Like, I've done everything that I need to do to make this video engaging enough. Now this is done, I'm going to grab this, and then I'm actually going to go to export this video. So I'm going to go O on my keyboard here. I'm going to go back to the beginning of where the video starts, hit I to set my out point and in point. If you don't know how to set out points and in points, there's been a lesson on that. And what we're going to do is we're going to go down to the deliver portion of DaVinci. So now in the deliver portion of DaVinci, you can see my video has been selected with the out points and in points that I've just added. If it's not right or you wanted to do something in here, just grab the edge of these and you just drag them to where they need to be. And now what I'm going to do is I can just render this video. So I'm going to name it UTS Talk Edited Location. I can select where that is. I'm just going to export it to my desktop. Then video, I'm going to go MP4. Then timeline resolution, just set to default, what I want. Automatic quality is going to be best. Presets going to be balanced. All the advanced settings, don't really need to worry about that. That's pretty much all good. From there, I'm just going to hit add to render queue, at least for this one, and then just go render all. This video is going to render, and then that's how you do it. That was me editing a video full live, been over 2 hours of editing, and I've got a full YouTube video done and dusted, which was sick. I hope going through this, even though I'm sure it was pretty tedious, maybe for some of you if you're like a complete beginner, just like hearing my thought process as I'm going through and making changes, why I'm making them, seeing what I'm doing, the edits I'm using, is maybe useful for your videos. So even if the exact edits and the exact style used here isn't 100% applicable to you, try and think about the principles and how those principles could be applicable to you, because 99% of the time, those principles are going to apply across a lot of different genres of content. So hope that was useful to you. Let's go to the next one. When I was 14, I desperately wanted to be a YouTuber, and to learn how to create content, I ended up begging my way into becoming an assistant videographer. That bloody light was the bane of my existence. But after a year of that job, I realized that the rules of traditional video editing don't always get you views on YouTube. Now, since then, I've learned a hell of a lot and have been personally responsible for creating videos that have got almost 50 million views now. But getting to that point took a lot of time, a lot of trial and error, and was very overwhelming. So to help you avoid the years of mistakes I slogged through, for this video, I decided to ask some of the YouTube mates I respect the most to reveal the biggest editing mistakes they see small YouTubers making that are costing you views. Starting with Rob from vidIQ, and when I talked to him, he pointed out something critical, and it all has to do with your hook, which is jargon for
the first 30 seconds of the video. YouTube even has an analytic for this to show you the percentage drop off of people in that first 30 seconds. So it is clearly very important. I know as a creator myself that you have a finite amount of time when it comes to editing, but what I would encourage you to do is front load your editing efforts into the beginning of the video.
So what exactly does front loading your video editing efforts mean? Well, let's say that on average you can commit about 5 hours of your week to editing a YouTube video. And your goal is to post one YouTube video a week, meaning you can afford to spend 5 hours editing each video you post. So let's say their videos tend to be about 5 minutes. They have 5 hours of editing time, so they're going to spend about 1 hour editing each minute of video footage. But when you think about it, the majority of your viewers are all watching at the beginning of your video. So for the example I've just mentioned, instead of spending 1 hour editing each minute of footage in your 5-minute video, you should spend 2.5 hours intensely editing the first 1 minute of your video, and then spend your remaining 2.5 hours editing the remaining 4 hours of video.
I often spend hours on those first 10 to 15 seconds of my videos.
But after hearing this advice, a lot of creators accidentally end up making their videos worse. And then they throw their laptop out the window in frustration, which then hits and kills a random pedestrian, and then they're imprisoned for manslaughter and live the rest of their days behind bars. So if you don't want to spend your days in prison, you need to realize that there's a big difference between front loading your video editing efforts and just dumping 3 terabytes of dank memes into the first 30 seconds of your video. My friend Nate, who is famous for his video editing, says one of the biggest editing mistakes small creators make is
over editing. So it's a very common misconception amongst YouTubers that more editing equals a better video, which is simply not the case. Most people, they get overwhelmed essentially. Even the younger audiences get overwhelmed with more and more editing. Honestly, editing should always be a supplement to your video, not the star of the show. The star of the show is always the value that you provide in your content, so only edit as much as you need to.
So if you're creating an entertainment video and more editing makes the video more entertaining, Nate approves. If you're creating an informational video and more editing makes it easier for people to learn what you're teaching them, Nate approves. But if you turn your editing timeline into a game of Tetris that doesn't add any real value, Nate will personally come to your house and delete your project files.
That's enough.
So what are some practical ways you can actually make your edits better without over-editing? Well, my friend Nate has some words of wisdom.
Now there are 2 of them. Let's say you're doing a talking head or something where you're using your voice to narrate something, and you have multiple takes, and maybe you repeat yourself a couple of times, and you don't trim off that second or that half second in between takes. It just grates on me. It's awful because it comes across as really awkward.
So for example, if I come to my video editing software and import this raw footage from a previous video I created, as you can see in my waveforms here, I stop and start talking relatively frequently because I can barely string a sentence together. I know the cat's out of the bag. So what happens is often my editors, or more recently it's been AI, but we'll talk more about that in another video, cut out all of the silences and stitch the video together to trick you into thinking I can actually speak extemporaneously. But the mistake a lot of small YouTubers make, if we zoom in on these clips here, you can see that at the end of this clip on the left hand side, our waveform goes down as I say my last word, then there's a little pause, and then my waveform goes up when we transition into the next clip. Now that little pause, even though it's just a tiny bit of silence, breaks the flow of the video and it makes it feel unnatural and awkward. Here's what it sounds like.
And I know this is the part where I should be a good YouTuber and draw out the whole video so that you only find out what that actual mistake is, like right at the end. But I'm just going to reveal what it is right now.
So what we actually want to do is trim off the ends of these clips and put them close enough together so that that awkward pause isn't there. Now, sometimes you can just do this with what's called a jump cut, which is where I literally just have one piece of footage back to back with another like this. But sometimes, especially with talking head videos, this doesn't work very well because, for example, sometimes my facial expressions might be a bit weird in between transitions because I haven't finished fully speaking the word. And so to fix this, we can do what's called a J or an L cut. What you're going to do is you're going to separate your audio
from your video track. On Premiere, you can do it by clicking on this track, holding your Alt key and then dragging it in. Now you can see that I can adjust the length of my video track separately from my audio track. Then what I'm going to do is drag this over here like this and join these together. And so what we're trying to do is use the audio from the first clip to transition to the next clip. This here is called an L cut, as you can see by the shape. If it's still jarring or doesn't work, we can do a J cut, which is just the opposite of an L cut. So something like this might sound better. Let's take a look.
You only find out what that actual mistake is like right at the end. I'm just going to reveal what it is right now.
Now, if it does sound a bit unnatural, all you have to do is experiment with the exact spacing here, but usually something like what I've just done here works pretty well. But before you go adding a bunch of effects and pattern interrupts to your video, you need to be careful because it's very easy to get this wrong. And a place so many people get this wrong is your sound design. And my friend Ed has noticed a lot of creators making this mistake.
So in nature, a whoosh sound, for example, will never sound the same each time. So what people tend to do is they have one sound effect, like a whoosh, and they use it to work with movement, and they use the same one, and to the viewer, something just feels a bit off. So you only need 3, it could be like a whoosh. It would make such a difference just alternating them.
I think I'm going to use Ed's whoosh sound effects for the rest of this video. Now, as Ed mentioned, a lot of pro sound effects packs will come with multiple variations of the same sound effect. But if you don't have that luxury, you're in luck. To save you the pain of searching for sound effects, I'm going to give you my 200 sound effects pack for free. Normally it's $35, but if you go to the link in the description of this video, you'll hit a page that looks like this. And all you have to do is enter your email address and I'll send you access to my 200 sound effects pack for free.
The next thing I'd say is when people use the wrong music for the tone. So if you are in a part of your video that is supposed to be exciting and you're using a track that's kind of slow.
This is the most expensive firework in the entire world, and it cost me over $160,000.
Feels disjointed for the viewer. And on the same side of it, if you are just talking in kind of a monotone way and the music's really upbeat, you need to make sure that the edit and the tone of your voice match to tell the right kind of story. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. So that's a big mistake, is not understanding really how to use music.
And my friend Nate, who you met earlier, has a similar pet peeve.
This happens a lot of times when I'll see people come to me and they'll say, you know what, I just felt like it was a little bit slow, so I just put some upbeat music in there. Music should not be used that way. Music is used to enhance what is already good with the pacing or the energy of a video. And if you're thinking of music as a way to patch up or bandage something that's dragging, I would prefer that you re-record it.
The principle here is we want the audio and video pacing to sync up, or else something will feel off and you'll lose viewers. But as my friend Nick shared with me, music and sound effects aren't the only things you need to think about.
My pet peeve is when people are using B-roll or graphics on the screen that are not relevant to what it is that they're talking about. There's nothing worse than watching a video and having a bunch of things showing up on the screen that are not related to what the content creator is sharing or showing, because it makes everything confusing and kind of leaves you thinking, like, does that even, like, what are they?
If you're doing it, stop it. Get some help.
And speaking of things that really bug me and kill your views, my mate Robert hit on something which, if I catch you doing it after this video, I will personally fly to your house and do this to your computer. He explains it here.
The number one editing mistake that I see people make over and over again, especially when it comes to YouTube Shorts creators, is they have text on the screen that's covering the title. This makes it absolutely impossible to read the title, makes it absolutely impossible to read the text that's on the screen, or they'll choose text that's like has absolutely no contrast to the background in which they actually have the text. And again, it makes the same effect. If it makes it too hard to read it and it doesn't look pleasing to the eye, I think so many people just end up swiping away. I especially see this with people that are trying to be like aesthetically pleasing and they're wearing a pink shirt and they have pink text across it, and it just makes it absolutely impossible to read and really hard to look at.
Now, I'm sure you can see the problem here, and there are 3 main ways that we can fix this. The first is you can add a very heavy, what we call stroke, which is basically an outline around your text. The most common examples of this are where people use white text and then add a black stroke. You can also try using an effect called the drop shadow. It's going to add a shadow behind your text. It's not as harsh as the stroke. It can distinguish it just that extra little bit that it needs. And the third popular way to do this is by adding an actual rectangular background behind your text. Now that people can actually see the text you're using in your videos, my mate JV, who's actually the senior editor for this channel you're watching right now, had a great tip for small YouTubers who want to get more views.
So it took me quite a while to learn this, but if you're not building your own assets library or creating your own presets, then you're wasting a lot of time. Basically, an asset library is an assortment of music, B-roll, graphics, and memes that you can simply drag and drop into your video project to speed up your workflow. So here are some good resources to help you get started. First up, we got Reli's editing pack. It's got some cool sound effects, memes, and green screen videos. Next up is Ekolu's editing pack, which has some funny clips but also has a Premiere Pro preset file that has a lot of cool effects. Next up is Premiere Composer by Mr. Horse. I only edit using Premiere Pro and After Effects, but this plugin is insanely useful and 100% free. It has a bunch of cool text presets, transitions, but here's the game changer. It has this user library feature where you can add your own asset folders, access them within Premiere Pro, and just drag them into your project.
Now the video is almost over, but I have one more big mistake that I really want to talk to you guys about. One, because I like the sound of my own voice.
Not really.
But two, because it really frustrates me when you guys do this. It's something that is done regardless of the style of video, whether you're doing talking head, whether you're doing gaming, and that is not directing the eye of your viewer. So the human eye and mind can only properly focus on one object at a time. And your YouTube video isn't one object. Your YouTube video transports them into a little world where there are multiple different objects to focus on the screen. And sometimes, especially if there's a lot going on or there's something subtle that happens, it can be really easy for your viewers to miss that thing. And so you want to make sure that throughout your entire video, there's always a primary point of focus that your viewers' eyes are being clearly drawn to. So you might notice, for example, in this video, whenever I talk about something specific, like a small setting you need to click on, I might pop that setting out. I might indicate that setting with an arrow or a circle. And when I say I, my editor will actually do this, so I can't take the credit, but you get the idea. And this isn't just applicable to tutorial videos like mine. Even a random IRL funny moments video like this one. We can see the funny moment happens, but if you weren't paying close attention to the clip, you might have missed it because it was quite small and hard to see. So instead of just playing this clip in their compilation, what I would actually encourage these YouTubers to do would be to zoom in or to indicate the dog, so that all of the viewers' minds are directed to the exact thing they should be paying attention to, and everyone is following along with the story. And if you can just get all of the things we talked about in this video right, by the way, massive thanks to everyone here for sharing their insights. They're all legends in their own right. I'll link their channels below. If you can just master these things, your videos will get so much better, your retention will go up, and that's going to lead to you getting more views. Okay, so far we've looked into a lot of technical editing techniques, like how to edit videos. When it comes to actually editing videos that retain people, the number one thing you can do is essentially just to study what the outlier videos in your space are doing. Try to just learn from them, figure out what it is that they're doing right, what it is they're not doing right, and then basically apply those learnings to your own videos. Exactly the same as we've been doing to thumbnails, to titles, to scripts, etc. You're probably noticing a lot of themes here. Essentially, a big part of YouTube, especially when you don't know what you're doing, when you don't have much data, you have to just reverse engineer what's already out there and what you see is already working. And again, a lot of people like feel uncomfortable about this, but it's like playing music, right? You wouldn't expect to pick up a guitar and start playing original songs as a complete beginner who's never played guitar before. You would first get someone to teach you the notes, and then you would start playing other people's music. And then once you start playing other people's music, you might start playing other people's music with your own style or a bit of your own flair or your own personality. And then you might start playing your own songs and inventing your own music, right? If you started just trying to invent your own music before you knew how to play the guitar or how to play other people's songs, you probably wouldn't be creating any songs worth listening to, most of us anyway. But just leaving you with that didn't feel quite right. So I want to go into this a little bit more in depth, specifically with intros with one of my good friends, Nate Black, who's an absolute legend in the YouTube space. He has his own channel, he's worked on multiple channels, and when we've been to like YouTuber conferences together and we've been walking around, I would say that he's probably the person I know who gets approached the most by fans wanting photos and asking advice and showing how much he's helped them, etc., which is pretty cool. So I've jumped on a call and I've had a bunch of you guys offer up your videos for us to go over and roast. And hopefully through that process, you'll get a little bit more insight into some of the things I really look for and Nate really looks for when it comes to creating highly retaining content.
Well, Marcus, people replied to this post asking for intros to roast. And you know, the first one I had to pick was from Dave Burning Becoming Better, because he said, howdy, howdy, in his comment. Howdy, howdy, a roast, count me in. So I had to choose this one. So Dave's channel is about becoming better. It's self-improvement and all that. So I wanted to show you the beginning of this video and see if anyone watching this can pick up on what I picked up on, especially considering the premise of this video. The idea of this video is, we need to know this going into it. I let AI train me for 7 days. The results shocked me. let me show you this intro.
7 days ago, I started a challenge. I wanted to see if AI could make me more confident on camera. It turns out it can. I honestly didn't believe it. I thought that the way this challenge was going to go is I would just be suffering through 7.
Okay, well, this is interesting because I want to see if you pick up on just that very first thing. Anyone watching this, I'm going to play the first literally 2 seconds again.
7 days ago, I started a challenge.
So what he did at the very beginning that I think many people don't realize they're doing, especially in the talking head space, is that moment of 7 days ago, the intake of breath. Now, I think I watched various other videos on Dave's channel, and he's going for kind of an authentic conversational tone. But the interesting thing here is it almost ruined the point of the video by including that intake of breath and then turning away from the camera as he does right here. Watch this.
I wanted to see if AI could make me more confident on camera. It turns out it can.
He turned away from the camera. Sorry, you lost me. I wanted to see if AI could make me more confident on camera. And we're leading this video with, it turns out it can. And I'm turning away from the camera. What the heck? That's the exact opposite of what I would think for the premise of the video. You do not appear to be confident on camera. So I just think it's ironic. We're here, we're roasting, so he gave permission for this. I just think it's ironic that the premise of the packaging is demonstrated in the opposite in the intro of the video. It happened in the first second. The recording starts and he looks at the camera and he goes, inhale, and then he starts speaking. It works, but I think inhalations are an interesting thing. You probably didn't think you were going to talk about this, Marcus. But inhaling, especially at the beginning of a video, it sets a tone. Immediately having a breath, and he actually shows it where it's about here. There's another really long breath that occurs. Now, breathing, of course, is human, but the thing that stood out to me about this is if the first thing that we're seeing is an intake of breath, and we're not intentionally using that, which I don't think is the case here, then we might be actually losing the potential energy that we could have with the intro.
For sure. And there, like you said, there was multiple pauses throughout it as well that just didn't really respect the viewer's time in a sense of they don't need to be there.
Now, the interesting thing here is, as I've become very aware of me in taking breaths while I'm recording this, now that we're talking about taking breaths, everybody watching this are going to be thinking the same thing. But it's interesting because I think the style Dave's going for here in a lot of the videos is, because I watched through segments of various finding this one video, is a single take. And I think that's good. But I think the next step in regards to respecting people's time is to, if possible, to cause the pacing to feel a bit more direct and punchy by removing those inhalations or making them intentionally a part of the narrative. We've all watched those apology videos where they turn on the camera and then they look at the camera and then they go. It's a very purposeful inhalation and use of that at the beginning of a video because it sets a tone. And I think the main thing I'm going for here is it set a tone, and I don't know if Dave was aware that he set a tone unintentionally.
Right. It's like, it's not saying you shouldn't take pauses or use breaths or whatever, but you want to be using it for dramatic effect, not just like randomly. And this wasn't really used for dramatic effect. It just kind of happened. 2 interesting things beyond what you said, Nate, which I think was awesome as well. The first one was the style of video he seems to be going for is that very authentic kind of like I'm your friend talking to you vibe, which is awesome. The challenge I think can sometimes be though is that his setup feels like a mix of both worlds. It feels like he's trying to go for like a semi-professional like talking head setup, but it's not quite there. It's not like quite that professional. It's not like quite good, but then it's also not like unprofessional enough to feel like super personable. So if I was this guy, I would be like, pick a side and lean into that. If you're gonna go for like the more professional like talking head setup, see if you can like level up your lighting a little bit, like add some contrast, maybe add some lights in the background, etc. As I say with my shitty setup. But I
wasn't gonna say anything there.
Yeah, so that's probably one thing I would say is if you're going for that super authentic, like I tried whatever video journal style, lean more into that and vice versa. The other thing I would say, this is less about like technical stuff. I feel like his intro almost defeats the entire purpose of the video because he's talking about AI like being his coach to help him become more confident on camera and like talking about how that went for him. Like as a viewer, I'm watching that and I'm going, oh, I can see exactly how that went for him because he's talking on camera right now, you know? So like in the first 20 seconds, I'm like, okay, so he's used AI to help him get more confident on camera. I've seen him talk on camera for 20 seconds after having used AI to help him get more confident on camera. Like, the premise of the video has been fulfilled. Like, the viewer is like, okay, cool. I'm not going to stick around for another 6 minutes to see how much better he gets talking on camera as a result of AI coaching, because I've literally just seen it in the intro. So like, all things aside, I think this intro personally, the biggest issue is like, even if you did make all the tweaks, you cut out the silence, maybe you add in some more pattern interrupts, maybe some punch-ins here and there, or maybe you go for the straight, like super authentic style, just like holding up your phone kind of video. It's just really inherently flawed, unfortunately, because I call it spoiling. It like spoils the end result or the story of the video in the beginning. Like, the viewer doesn't need to stick around to see how much better he became speaking on camera because they've just seen it.
I agree. It's interesting because it's almost like the premise outlined, it's already been destroyed with it. I actually saw this on another person's channel recently where I can't remember what the channel was, but the video was something to the effect of, hey, I'm going to show you how this one way to investing or something to make more money. And in the beginning of the video, they said, hey, I made $400 or so. I'm trying to remember the exact details, but the packaging made it seem like this is going to be a really big deal. But the number they said in the intro felt very insignificant compared to the results that they were promising with the packaging. I think a similar thing is going on here. It's saying, hey, I got so much better on camera, but we're just not seeing it. The premise is like, oh, this is going to be really good with the packaging, but intro dropped it. It dropped the ball.
Yeah, no, I feel that. And obviously we're being harsh here because, I mean, you commented on a post saying that you wanted to be roasted. So here we are. There are obviously good things we could call out. Like, he has a nice speaking voice. His cadence when he is speaking is nice. He seems like down to earth, authentic. But yeah, overall, definitely some big improvements would need to be made to this one for it to perform well.
So this is from the channel Mulletmon. Pokemon's brand new stacking tins are epic. Okay, published 6 days ago as of recording this.
That is one majestic mullet. Jesus
I know.
Christ.
Well, wait till you see this intro. Are you ready for this? I wanted to get your genuine reaction to this. Okay, Marcus, because I watched through this. And it was such that I had to see your on-the-spot reaction. For everybody watching this, Marcus has not watched this before recording this, so I just want to see how you react. You ready?
I'm ready. I'm braced.
I'm risking my life in the wild, surrounded by ferocious animals.
Look, it's a cute little ducky. It's so cute.
Trying to give away this paradox stacking tin to one of you watching. But first, I'm going to open one up to show you what's inside on the Mulletmon Saturday Show and Share.
Look at that smile. Look at that hair. It's time for the Mulletmon Show and Share.
We got lucky, man.
All right, there you go.
I mean, I live in the mullet capital of the world, Australia. If there was an Olympic category for mullets, I think this one would take home the gold in terms of dirty mullets. That's coming from an Australian.
All right, but anyway, but on to the analysis and the roasting of that intro. So here's the thing. It comes from my performing, etc. background, but I'm often of the opinion that for most people, I have to keep telling them to do more and more. Like when I'm coaching someone or I'm working with someone, a client, etc., and I'm saying, I want more energy from you. I want more personality. I want more of you, more of that engagement and connection with people. 9.9 times out of 10, that is the case here. However, that 0.1 times out of 10, I say, hey, maybe we need to dial it back a little bit. And I purposely chose this one because I have rarely seen something with this much personality in an intro. And the saying I'll often repeat is, hey, I would rather have to tell you to do less to dial it back. Okay, we're going over the top than to keep pushing you for more. And I think in this case, I think we've reached that point. Now, I think I would add the caveat to it, and then I want to hear your thoughts on this, Marcus. I'd add the caveat to it. I think that having huge energy and that fun jingle intro, I think is very, very branded. It's very memorable. My fear here is that it's almost too far for a new audience. Like if I don't know who this person is and I'm watching their video for the first time and I'm curious about Pokemon or whatever it may be, and I watch that, if that wasn't the purpose that I came for, I might watch that and go, whoa, yeah, that's kind of funny, but in my face, like, oh, that's a little bit too much energy. It's just like if you go to a party and you're maybe a bit more shy and you're kind of sitting there and someone comes up to you and goes, hey, how are you? You know, let me shake your hand and let me tell you all this. It's kind of that same feeling. And it's a brand choice. And I think what I would want to say to Mulletmon here is if that is an intentional brand choice, awesome. I think there are also ways that could make it even more approachable, which is what I'd be looking at here. If it's not intentional, I'd be very surprised considering the branding and everything. But if it's not intentional, then we want to be aware of it either way.
I think that's a good point. I'm still kind of recovering from the mullet itself, but that's a good mullet. But I think like two maybe additional things. Your point, like you said, Nate, was really good. Like you want to try and reassure viewers that they're going to get what they've come for. And I think this like kind of skit that he's got going is cool. It's authentic. It adds some like personality, uniqueness, memorable, etc. But it felt like maybe you leaned too heavily into the skit in the beginning. Like the video or the title or packaging doesn't indicate that this is some sort of like skit. It seems like a review video of the brand new stacking tins. And then you go like full skit mode, which is cool, but I think it would be interesting to like spend maybe a little bit more time or a couple of extra seconds or whatever reassuring people that like, hey, they're gonna get what they came for, which is like a review of the stacking tins or whatever. I'm guessing that's what most people are coming for. And then kind of like more slowly work your way into the skit. Because it feels like the skit kind of overshadows a little bit. I like the skit. I think it's good. I think it should be kept, but I think maybe the timing of it or how you ease into it could be adjusted a little bit just so people know that they're gonna get what they came for and that the stacking tins are the star of the show, and then the skit makes the stacking tins more interesting. As opposed to at the moment, it feels like the skit is the star of the show and the stacking tins are like just kind of accessories, even though that's what the videos are made about. The other thing was kind of like you said, Nate, I think his style is really unique and cool. Like he's got a bunch of things going on, but just remembering to like direct the viewer's eye and not have too much on screen at the same time. So like, for example, when he had that, if the fishing rod came in, he had the fishing rod and like the card got pulled in as well. And there's like text in the background. Like there's a bunch of things going on. Just remember that viewers can only look and focus on one thing at a time. So you can have multiple things on the screen at the same time, but like you need to think about like which one they're going to do. And like if you've got text on the screen, then you're also bringing in some sort of card that has text on it and you want people to read that card to see what it is. Like people can't be reading text on the screen and then also reading the card on the screen as well. So like just thinking about like directing the viewer's eye and like what it is you want them to be focusing on. Because if it's the card and you're pulling in the card with your fishing rod, which is a funny skit, then maybe get rid of the other text on the screen, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree.
It's nice. Do you have anything else for Mulletmon or?
Nope.
Maybe Mulletmon. You could try out your the curly man bun, it looks like. You could give that one a go. Is that the bonus tip from Nate Black?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not Mulletmon. Like that's his. I think we should keep the Mulletmon.
It's funny. Imagine if this guy blows up and he ever wants to like change his hair. He can't. He's screwed.
Yeah, that is a funny thing. I'll admit I had one more about this.
All right.
So I've seen this a few times. I try to put some words on it. There's something to be said for being too unique when you're small and you're not famous already. So we always point our fingers at these like famous people that have crazy collections or stuff like that. And I think what we often overlook with a famous or a well-known influencer or celebrity or whatever is that they also have oftentimes teams working with them to make them more accessible to people. And they show up in a lot of different situations, a lot of different media locations. And they also have, in many cases, depending on how big you're going, they have people that are in charge, like their job is to make them look good online. And I think the interesting thing that happens with small creators especially is if we're too big, we're too different, if like society's right here and we're too far outside of like what's normal or acceptable by society. I say that with air quotes because whatever, it is what it is. If we're too far out from that, then it can make it like an uphill battle to build an audience, because what we're doing to build an audience with this, like with these intros where we're smacking people with so much personality and energy from the get-go, what we're doing is we're only allowing the people who are okay with that over-the-top stuff to filter through and become my audience before I have social proof. If I had a bunch of people like this same channel, if I had a whole bunch of people as 1 million subscribers and I did that, it'd probably be fine because there's a lot of social proof of brand new person comes along and says, what the heck is this? But then they see, oh, 1 million people watch this video or 1 million people are subscribed to this channel. Okay, maybe they're good. You see that? And I think in many cases, if we have a smaller audience, a smaller channel, it can be harder to establish that because of the uphill nature of it.
No, that's an interesting point. I mean, I'm not specifically calling out this guy for that necessarily, but it's like, yeah, if you're a small channel sometimes and you're like super left field, you're seen as weird. Or if you had like an extra 100,000 subscribers, you would be perceived as quirky. And like, it's not really fair. It's the exact same content, but unfortunately it's just the way that people will be like, you know, small channel, this guy's kind of weird, but like if there's a bunch of people already approving of it, everyone's like, oh, it's kind of quirky. So we're very swayed by people's perceptions. So you just got to be aware of what people's perceptions might be depending on how big your channel is.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool. Who have we got next?
All right. I wanted to share one. Let me share my screen here. Here we go. So I want to share this one as one that I would say it's getting there. It's in the space of like, oh, wow, we've got a lot of the right things in place, but if we just need to tweak a few things, because I know there are people watching this that may feel like, well, okay, well, I'm not that bad, or I don't have that issue. What about if my intros are okay, they're almost there, but I'm looking to reach the next level? I wanted to show you this intro and hear your thoughts on this, Marcus.
When I heard Dr. Stacey Sims schooling Dr. Andrew Huberman on the focus boosting powers of Shashandra, even comparing it to Adderall, I knew I had to give it a try. So I decided to take on a little experiment. 7 days to see if this little adaptogen could help me get past my brain fog. I'm excited to try this because caffeine and I don't really mix.
Boom. That's about 18 seconds because it feels like we're already in the video at this point. So things that stood out to me on this premise was pretty clear. It was like, okay, so I heard some people talking about it. They said this is beneficial for your health. I'm going to go ahead and then to see on screen day one immediately implies, okay, this is also in the text of the title here, trying to improve for 7 days. But to immediately jump into day one implies, okay, I'm going to share my experience over multiple days within this video. I really liked that about this intro. It felt like, okay, this is the premise. There's a reason for you to watch through this video because it's, okay, immediately we're in day one. Things I didn't like, or the things I'm going to roast. That's the roast voice I need to do. So we have this funny face at the beginning here. However,
when I heard Dr.
It was so short. I fear that, and this happens several times in this intro in the first 18 seconds, the clips are quick, which I think are in the right direction. We want to have like that fast pacing. We're kind of set the tone for the video, but they're quick and they felt disjointed to me. They're like this and then this and then this and then this. And then me as a viewer, they're not cohesive enough for me to establish the narrative as clear as I would like to have from the video. Like this, for example, there's these things on screen and it's like, well, let's see how long this lasts on screen, actually. Let's play it.
Dr. Stacey Sims schooling Dr. Andrew Huberman on the focus boosting powers.
Yeah, that was about 2.5 seconds. And I felt like even that was too fast. It's so funny because we hear like pacing over and over again. But I think in this case, we tried to put too many things together and it lost what could have been because of the so many different scenes happening at once. Because later on we go to blending, then we go to showing a product, and then we go to, I think we had a black and white moment. Anyway, what are your thoughts, Marcus?
Yeah, like you said, I think there's a lot of good aspects of this intro, and I think this intro in of itself could work quite well. I think at a higher level, beyond the things you mentioned, Nate, I would kind of call out the intro itself again, maybe doesn't actually cover the right topics in the right order. So when you think about I don't know what the thumbnail is for this, so I could be wrong if that premise was set in the thumbnail, but the video title at least is trying to improve brain fog for 7 days. And you start off with like taking some sort of supplement. I can't remember what the supplement was called, but if the video was like taking insert supplement for 7 days, here are the results, and then you talked about the supplement there, then I think that would make sense. But I think what I would have preferred in this video, you can see the video is about brain fog, essentially. Like people who would click on this are probably people who have brain fog and are interested in like, oh, is there a way to improve it? So like start the video talking about that. Like don't start the video talking about the supplement. Start the video talking about like, you know, maybe just sharing a couple of points or a couple of things that you've been experiencing recently that like assure to the viewer like, oh, okay, she has the same symptoms as me, or like this is like something she's been struggling with and she needs to fix it. And then I would probably kind of tell it in like a story mode. So I'd kind of like start out by trying to do something like that. So being like, you know, I've had these symptoms, blah, 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 and I've been trying to get rid of them and nothing seems to work. And then I heard this, and then I would show the clip from Andrew Huberman and whatever, because you kind of like showed that on screen for like Nate said, like 2 seconds. And like, I didn't have time to actually read what they were saying. And I didn't even realize it was actually a joke until like Nate rewinded it and paused it because I didn't even have time to read it. But even if it wasn't a joke, even if it was just like a comic section, I kind of want to know like what did she say? Like what were the premises? Or I kind of want to see like Andrew Huberman getting schooled. Even if it's just like a couple of clips here and there, or like just a sentence that like states the premise. And then you can get into like, oh, okay, this is the mechanism for improving. In copywriting, you call it the mechanism. So the mechanism for how you're going to improve your brain fog is going to be this supplement. And then maybe you could show the funny clip of you like trying to try it and it's not being so good, or all this kind of thing. And then you could get into like the regimen that you're going to be following of like how you're going to try it for 7 days. So like, again, there's a lot of individual elements in here that are good, but like as a cohesive intro, I feel like the story doesn't really fit very well with what the packaging is like hitting on first. So as a viewer, if I clicked on this immediately, I'd be maybe a little bit confused or a little bit unsure of, like, at least initially, whether you even have like the same symptoms as me, like whether you actually have brain fog. So like whether, you know, this video is relevant to me. The other thing I would think about is just using lots of jargon is usually not such a good idea. So like if you could explain what the thing is a little bit more, as opposed to just saying shish around whatever it is, right? Like even Andrew Huberman doesn't know what it is, and you just kind of like throw it out like everyone should know what this thing is. You're like, oh, it's like, you know, apple cider vinegar, and you just like say it. And I'm like, if you said apple cider vinegar, like I know what that is. But Shashranda, I don't even know what this thing is, and you just kind of like, you seem to just say it like I should know, which kind of makes me feel a little bit confused and dumb, and I don't like feeling confused and dumb. So yeah, overall, on top of Nate's points, restructuring the story that the intro tells to align a bit better with the story that you're selling viewers in the title and thumbnail. And then yeah, just trying to cut out the jargon, make it a little bit simpler. Those would be probably the two main things that come to mind initially.
Yes, and I would add to that just one other thing, because I agree. Context, like you were saying, how much context do people need to have before this intro makes sense? And I think it's this funny thing that we run into, is the expert blindness, because Erin's probably around this all the time. She's doing videos about this all the time. And so we don't even realize, for us, lay people watching this, Shashandra, adaptogen, you know, cleanse, like all of these things that were shared within those first few seconds really intrigued me. They just confused me. Okay, I picked a couple of other intros, two in particular from the channel Katie Ukulele. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right there, Katie Ukulele, because this video, Run Around by Blues Traveler and Super Simple Ukulele Chords, had very different things going on. I want to show you both as a contrast. So I'm going to play a few seconds of this, and then I'm going to switch to the other one.
Once upon.
Well, did you have time to read that? Yeah, we're at normal speed, right? Normal speed. I'm going to play that again. That's fast.
Once upon a midnight dreary, I woke with something in my head.
Okay, so we went right to the song there. Beautiful voice, by the way. I know this is a roast. This is gorgeous. That was amazing, Katie. But so we've got this text showing up on screen, and we're going right into the song, right? We already talked about the text being kind of fast. I can pause it here, and maybe maybe viewer behavior is pausing that in order to actually get that. But let me show you this other one.
Today's lesson is going to be really easy. It's just going to be 5 easy chords that you should know when you play ukulele. The first chord we're going to learn is C. This is a very basic chord. We're going to take our third finger and place it on the 3rd fret of the 1st string.
All right. So this first part was very interesting because, well, how long is it? 0 to when we're showing the first thing.
Today's lesson is going to be really easy. It's just going to be 5 easy chords that you should know when you play ukulele. The first chord we're going to learn is...
Okay. My question for you, Marcus, and maybe I'll answer this out loud. How necessary was it, even though it was literally, what's that? 6-7 seconds. Today's lesson is going to be really easy. It's 5 ukulele chords that you can learn. How necessary was that to even include? Here's what I see going well with Katie Ukulele. I'm guessing the advice to say, just go like, let's skip the intro and let's just get right to the content is sinking in. And I think for many people that works, because for most people, when they think video intro, they're thinking like a freaking 60-second long, hey, everybody, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I kind of wanted to show you this and this meandering and stuff. And it doesn't really set a good tone and good pacing for the video. My thought here is perhaps in skipping it entirely and or putting just very small snippets of information, we're actually missing out on some of the potential benefits of an intro. It's kind of the opposite of what is commonly said when people say, well, just no intro, just go right into the content as quick as possible. And in most cases, I think that's the case. But for this, I actually feel like I might reintroduce a few things to enhance the video beginning. If we're not going to call it an intro, we can call it an intro. I've done an interesting experiment that I've not shared publicly, but I guess this is the first place I'm sharing it publicly. So I've worked with various people in clients, etc., in improving the feeling that they have in their videos. And the intro, the very beginning of the video, is how you set that tone. You set 2 very important things: the feeling, the tone of the video, and the pacing of the video. What I have found is, or a question I'll get a lot of times is, well, how do I make my videos not feel so transactional? Like they just come to the video, get the information. Maybe they come in, they just want to go straight to whatever's happening. They skip around and then they leave. There's one thing that I have found to really improve the retention and also improve the amount of comments that people get on videos. I see that as a signifying factor of engagement, like connection that people have between you, your content, and your audience is somewhere near the beginning. I'm warning, I got to package this well because it may feel simpler than it actually is, but I want this to actually sink in how simple and effective I have seen this be. Somewhere near the beginning, maybe not the very first thing, you say something to the effect of, welcome back, and then you say your name, and then you get right back into your content. A smile. If you're showing your face, I'll say this, but even if you're not showing your face channel, saying your name, even if it's a fake name, if you don't want to include your real name online, even if it's just your channel name, you say, welcome back to such and such. Or my name is, in my case, I say, howdy, everyone. I'm Nate here. Saying whatever your name is somewhere near the beginning, probably within the first 60 seconds of the video. I have seen it. We've tested it. People that weren't doing that before, and that people started doing that, the amount of comments went up. We knew the engagement was going up because the comments were going up, and people started to, in the videos themselves, they started to address the creator of the channel more. Like they weren't just there for like, what can I get out of this? Give me, I just want the information. They came into it saying, I appreciate you, and I feel more connected to you. That was the result we were seeing. In these cases, with Katie Ukulele, I think the main thing I'd be suggesting for these intros is let's just put that in there. It's the perfect name. Like, hey, welcome back to Katie Ukulele. Today we're going to be looking at this. Something as simple as that, where you just say your name, smile at the beginning. I'm just curious. I'm really curious, Katie, in the future. If you watch this video, I want to hear how that goes for you.
That's really interesting. It reminds me of something. I know you mentioned this to me, Nate, a little bit ago before you were testing it. I was thinking about after, and it reminds me of a story I heard once from a guy named Chris Voss, who was like an FBI negotiator. And he got asked a question on a podcast, like, what's the number one thing you can do to increase your chances of survival if you get kidnapped? This is going down a really interesting, it's just left of field rabbit hole, but I promise this is going to make sense. And he said, the most important thing is to humanize yourself, because when you humanize yourself, it makes people care about you a little bit more, or care about your well-being a little bit more. And he said the easiest way to humanize yourself is when you get kidnapped, find a way to share your name with your kidnapper. Because now all of a sudden you're not just like a nameless, faceless hostage. You're a person like a real person with a real name, just like them. And so it's going to be harder for them to hurt you. But I think like that same principle might be what you've found, Nate, that's at play here. It's like by sharing your name, you're forcing your viewers to humanize you. And then once your viewers humanize you, they care a little bit more about you as opposed to just caring about what the information in the video is.
I agree. And also that took a funny turn from YouTube intros to hostage negotiation.
Yeah, no, I think those are good points you brought up, Nate. Yeah, really interesting. I think on my end, from the things that I saw, for the text at the beginning of the video, like Nate said, 1, you can't read it, and 2, I clicked on the video for ukulele, not for reading assignment. So like, give me ukulele right away. That's probably what I would say initially. From what I've seen in the guitar niche, just because I've had a little bit of experience in there, like starting off by playing the song you're going to teach people is not always the worst way to start a video. In fact, I think it's often the go-to method, at least in the guitar niche. So like start off immediately by playing the song you're going to teach them how to play. And then once you've kind of proved to them, or you've played it for long enough, they're like, oh, okay, cool. Like I'm going to learn how to do this because this person knows how to do it. Then you go into the intro, like Nate was saying. I think the only 2 other things that I would say would be, I really don't like the hard up against the background. It feels like very kind of claustrophobic, like, oh, we're kind of squashed into your wardrobe, you know? It's like give me some breathing room, give me some space. Like Nate has a great setup. Look at his background, guys. Like there's so much space behind him. Like he could build another mini house there.
That's probably, if we're using American feet, it's probably 8 feet, 9 feet behind me. Yeah.
And can you see, guys, how that makes? So that would be one thing. And then the last thing I would say was the 5 chords intro. I feel like you could make that a little bit more interesting by thinking about what viewers actually came to the video for. So yes, people want to learn the 5 simple ukulele chords, But like the reason they probably want to learn 5 simple ukulele chords is so that they can play songs. So I call it like the so that rule. So think about like when you're saying something, and this isn't applicable in absolutely every single case, but in a lot of education cases it is. And don't just say, I'm going to help you play 5 interesting chords. Add so that. So I'm going to help you play 5 interesting chords so that you can play, you know, a whole variety of songs or something like that. That's very bad copy right there, but you get the idea. So if I was you, like people are probably coming to this video to learn the 5 simple chords, but the reason they want to do it is because they probably want like cheat code to be able to play a bunch of cool songs. I'm going to reassure them they're in the right place. I'm going to show you 5 simple chords, but I would also add in something there about like, and look, once you learn these 5 chords, you'll be able to play like 50% of the most common songs you hear on the ukulele or something like that. It's kind of, I'm guessing like these 5 chords are like in guitar, there's like a set of chords that, you know, C, D, G, E minor, or if you know those chords, I'd say at least like 50% of like most pop music that comes out, you can play it at least in some key with those chords, right? So give people a reason, not just I'm going to teach you the 5 chords, but like here's why this is actually going to be valuable to you. That was a very long-winded roast.
Now, you make a good point on that. It's the type of thing, those are the subtle types of things, what you were just talking about, is those are the types of things that can make the difference between this video, which for the channel did well. It got 1,000 views. The average on the channel is less than that as of recording this, right? But doing something like learn these 5 chords and you can play 80% of ukulele songs. Like there's a different vibe to that. And in my opinion, it could be the difference between getting 1,000 views and 10 or 100,000 views or more. Just simply tweaking it like what you were just saying, Marcus.
Yeah, no, 100%. And the copy that I'm sharing and maybe that Nate's sharing, like we're just reacting to this live, so it might not be the best. Like you might find different ways to do this. So maybe instead of being like, and you'll be able to play 80% of ukulele chords, another way you could do it is you could like research, say, the top 5 most popular common ukulele songs and then just name them. So you say something like, I'm going to show you 5 easy ukulele chords that are used in really common songs like Somewhere Over the Rainbow, like blah, 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 and just quickly list off a bunch of songs that these guys who are interested in ukulele probably like, oh wow, like I would love to be able to play that song on ukulele. So now you've not just got them with like, I'm going to teach you something, but now it's like, if I watch to the end of this video, I'm going to learn these 5 chords so that I will be able to play Somewhere Over the Rainbow and like, you know, Riptide and all the like famous ukulele songs, right? So now it's like so much better of a promise because it's like sick, like I'm actually going to get something really like fun and tangible out of this learning. So we covered a broad variety of examples there, and there were definitely specific use cases to each creator that we called out. However, a lot of the principles we talked about would apply across channels in multiple niches. So hopefully you learned something useful there. Massive thanks to Nate for coming on. His links will be down below. Go check out his YouTube channel. He's got a great one. But all that being said, let's move on to the next video. Okay, so once you've finished editing a video, something you might want to do is cut that video into clips that you can then post as shorts or maybe even post as TikToks or Instagram Reels to promote your long form video. Now, there's 2 ways that you can go about doing that. The first is for you to actually go and manually go through your video, find the best moments, cut them out, resize them, all that kind of stuff. And that's definitely a valid option for a lot of people. But one thing that I would consider doing if I was you is using a service like Opus Clip. Now, Opus Clip is basically an AI platform that can actually automatically re-edit your videos for you and cut them down into short form content clips, amongst many other things. But that's the main thing that I would use it for, and I'm going to be showing you about today. So what it does is it can take a long form video like this on the left, you can see here, and then basically it can automatically reframe it like you see over here. It can tell which faces are talking, switch between them, add captions as the person's speaking like you can see here, and it can also automatically do things like add B-roll that's illustrating the captions, and you can change the templates and do all that kind of stuff. Handy little animation Opus have on their website that saves me having to animate and show you guys all that myself. Now, Opus Clip are a sponsor of this video, so I want to thank them a lot. You can go down below and check them out, but I will say that I would promote Opus regardless of whether they were sponsoring this video or not. In fact, I actually went out to them and I approached them about sponsoring this video because I was going to talk about them anyway, and I've recommended them to many people before I even actually, was sponsored by them. So Opus are great, and if you don't believe me, you can go out
out there and try the alternatives, which is decidedly less good compared to Opus, which the main reason for that, I would say, is because Opus has an actual AI model that actually looks at what is going on in the videos, not just what the transcripts are saying. But let me actually show you some examples of how to use Opus. So when you log in, you're going to be faced with a dashboard that looks like this. Down the bottom, you're going to see the projects that haven't expired. I haven't used Opus in over 30 days, so I actually don't have that many projects here, but I've used Opus quite a lot in the past to create hundreds and hundreds of short form clips. And to get started with creating a clip, you can either come here to upload a video. You can upload up to 10 hours of footage. So for example, you can export your video, upload it straight into Opus, or you can go to YouTube, for example, like here, grab the link of the video and then just come back to Opus and just copy and paste it into here. Now, when you do that, there's going to be a couple of settings you're going to have to establish before you actually start generating these clips automatically. So the first one is language. You're going to want to select what the language is just to make sure it's identifying the correct language. It usually does this automatically though. Then come down to AI clipping. Here, we're going to be able to choose how long we actually want our clips to be. And how long we want them to be depends on what kind of clips or how it is that we want to repurpose our organic video. So for example, you could create really short clips. So you could create slightly longer clips. You can even create 5 to 10 minute long videos. Now I'm usually going to go with something like auto because again, when I would use Opus, I would use it for cutting up shorts. And then down below here, you can select what type of video it is that you're actually editing. This is going to help Opus's AI basically edit it better. So you can see there's a bunch in here. If you're lazy like me, you can just let AI detect it, or you can actually see what it is. So this is kind of like a podcast style video. So I'll just click podcast. Now by default, Opus is going to clip up this video into clips less than 90 seconds that can be used for short form content. However, if you wanted to find a particular moment or you wanted to generate a compilation of particular moments, in here you can actually describe, as you can see some of the examples popping up from Opus here, what it is that you actually want, and Opus will try and find that for you. Now I'd leave the processing time on default and scroll down here, and this is where you can select a preset for the style of text that's actually going to be showing up. So when Opus animates the text, you can see you can kind of get it to do this, or you can get like a gameplay style video like this. You can get a more clean look like the Ali Abdaal ones here, or the John Uche ones here. So for example, if I wanted Ali Abdaal, I could just select this. Or if you wanted to make it a little bit more custom, you can come into My Templates, click on Edit, and here you can actually start creating a template. So you can select what aspect ratio you want the video to be cut into. 9:16, that would be vertical. So that's YouTube Shorts, TikToks, etc. Square would be for like Facebook, Instagram. And 16:9 would be like an actual long form YouTube video. Now again, I'm doing this for shorts most of the time, so I'm going to click that one. Again, here you can select your animated caption style. So I'm just going to click this one for now. Now, if you do have a custom font you use in your videos, you can click on Upload Custom Font here, but I just going to use the default one for now and hit Next. And if you want, you can upload your logo to sort of watermark the video. I'm not going to bother with that. I'm just going to hit Save My Template. And then inside here, we can see what the template would actually look like. And I can do a bunch of customizations in here. So for example, on the right hand side, so I can choose how it is I want Opus to actually cut up my video, like what kind of layouts it can use. See, if you hover over these, see fill, it's going to look kind of like that, just a straight up fill. If you go fit, if it's 16:9, it's going to zoom it out so the whole video is fit onto the screen and the top and bottom are just blurred a bit. Split, it's going to be split screen like you can see here. You got screen share and gameplay content where the speaker is going to be on one part of the screen, a smaller part, and then the gameplay will take up a much larger part below. You can cut it into 3 sections, so like one big section at the top and then 2 other speakers down below. This would be if you have multiple people you're cutting up, and also 4 sections. Again, you basically break the screen up into quadrants of 4 for 4 people. So I can just check on and off what I actually want. So for example, if I don't want Opus to ever show 4 people on screen at one time, or 3 because I think it's overwhelming, I can get rid of that. I can also get rid of gaming and split screen if that's not going to be the case, and just leave it at split, fit, and fill. And then Opus, based on when its AI thinks it's going to feel right, is going to cut between these different views here. Now we can scroll down to captions. Now if you want captions off, you can just turn them off. I'm going to chuck them on, and you can change the text, the style of caption you want. So I might just go this one, for example. You can choose how many caption lines per page. So if I go 3, it's going to actually show more text on the screen compared to 1. You can choose where you want the captions positioned. So I usually think auto is good, but you can go top. If you want the middle, you can go middle. Bottom, you can go bottom. I'm going to go auto. You can also choose the animation, how you want the captions to automatically show up. So you could underline, you can have them bounce in, you can have some sort of box in the background, you can have them pop. And again, we can keep scrolling down here. Most of these are pretty self-explanatory. I don't want to waste your time. You can see change the font case, the strokes, the colors, etc., etc. And then we're just going to hit Save Template. Then what I can do is come back to my video, add my link back in here, make sure all my settings are right. And if I come back down to my templates, I'm going to see that template I just created right here. So I'm going to select that, and then I'll just click on get clips with one click, and it's going to actually start doing that over here. Now, as you can see, this is going to take 17 minutes for this clip. So I'm actually just going to skip past that and show you some of these ones I've already created. Now, I've got a few different projects here, but I'm going to come across to this Alex Hormozy one just because Alex Hormozy and Chris Williamson are people I've been listening to a bit. And you can see a bunch of the projects have popped up in here. And I can actually preview these to see if Opus has done a good job of finding the right moments. Opus currently has this little overlay thing on my clips. That's not going to show up on your account. That's only going to show up on my account just because I was doing another video with them earlier and we wanted to have that. So they applied this by default to all of the clips in my account, but you're not going to have that if you use Opus. Anyway, let's show this.
Yeah, that sounds good. It's like, I want to prove the bullies that said I was a worthless piece of shit in school wrong. It's like, that's some fucking potent fuel. I do believe that scaled over a long enough time, it's toxic. And I don't think that it's necessarily...
How long?
Well, that's the question. Like a lifetime, right? Like, but I mean, it'll fuel you for a decade pretty well.
Yeah.
And I think that, I look at me, I was bullied pretty badly in school and was an only child and had expectations from parents.
Sure.
And I combined all of those things together, and I did have a chip on my shoulder, and I did want to prove to the world that I was worthwhile, and I did want people to realize that they had doubted the wrong person. Fuck yeah, damn right I do.
I think being really specific about your pain is helpful. So like, even being specific about the cheese, really specificity in general is helpful, but like even more so, like what is twisting the knife? Like how do you operationalize twisting the knife, right? Instead of being like, I hate my life, right? It's, I hate the way Andrew makes me feel when he says that I'm a piece of shit and I'm not going to amount to anything, comma, because he's right. Like, why does it hurt me? Like if someone says, Alex, you're a piece of shit and you're not going to amount to anything.
If someone accuses you of being poor or fat.
Right. I'd be like, I have evidence to the contrary.
Cool. So that was actually a pretty damn good clip. It was a pretty succinct clip, shared a cool nugget of wisdom from this conversation, and it had a pretty clear start that led into the body, and then it ended pretty succinctly. So when I find a clip that I like, what I'll actually do is I'll come over here to this love heart and I'll click like clip to save it for later. Now let's have a look at some of the other ones it's created.
The average person is obese, likely to be divorced, and has less than 1K in the bank. It feels safe to do what everyone else is doing, but it's actually a terrible decision.
It's like the best way to guarantee to not have the life that you want is to do what everyone else is doing. Unless you want what everyone else has, which no one does.
Also, great one. Quick clip.
And he said, the cynics get to be right, and the optimists get to be rich. And from you, I think the winner's mindset sits in the uncomfortable place between two surface level contradictions: extreme paranoia in the present and unshakable faith in the future. The tension between the two makes someone hard to beat today and hard to outlast tomorrow. The cynics get to be right, and the optimists get to be rich.
Also, another great one. And let's just watch one more.
When I was 19 years old, I was super angry, like all 19-year-old men, right? That's the standard default, right? I was angry at both my parents because I was 19, right? And I remember blaming them for everything, blaming them for my life, blaming them for not being a better person. I literally blamed them for being a bad person. And I remember realizing that when I blamed them, that I gave them control over my life. And then the idea that the people that I hated the most at the time were the ones who actually were controlling me was the thing that most sickened me, to then actually flip my narrative to actually taking control. Like that was the one thought process. Like my mother, I'm giving her control over my romantic like my mother controls this? Fuck that. I was like, no. And so like just the idea that somebody who I was disgusted by at the time had that much power is what gave me the power to start taking action.
Another awesome clip there. Now, I will say transparently, usually I don't get like 4 great clips in a row from Opus. Usually it's like 1 good, then 2 not so good. But like the fact that it generates all these clips, right? You can just quickly watch through them and then just only like the ones that are actually any good. It's a lot faster than actually going through yourself and manually trying to edit out these moments. But in saying that, even though these moments are pretty damn good, not all of them are perfect. For example, this first one, if I play this from the beginning.
Yeah, that sounds good. It's like, I want to prove
yeah, that sounds good. That's not very good. So what I can actually do is if I come down here, hover over edit clip, you can actually see it opens up an editor and I can make a bunch of adjustments. So you can see the transcript here. It says, that sounds good. I want to prove. And if you watch the video.
Yeah, that sounds good. It's like, I want to prove.
I probably want to get rid of the "that sounds good" bit, right? So what I could do is I could click on the "it's like," or maybe even the "I" if I wanted a really quick start. And then what I would do is come to trim and split and then select set as start. And that's going to get rid of the first bit. And now my clip's going to start like this.
I want to prove the bullies.
Maybe it seems a little bit too much. So I'm going to come down to my timeline down here, grab it, drag it out a bit just to re-add in that section I removed. And I might start it on the "it's like" just to give it a little bit of buffer room. So I'll set a start here, and then let's listen to this.
It's like, I want to prove the bullies that said I was a worthless piece of shit.
Cool, so that's pretty good. What I might want to do though is I don't want to actually emphasize these captions here. So it starts off with "it's like," and then "I want to prove the bullies." The message I want people to be hit with immediately is the "I want to prove." The only reason the two "it's like" words are here is because I need a little bit of spacing for the clip to sound good. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to click on this one, and I'm going to hold down Shift and click on this one so both of them are selected, and I'm going to go remove captions. And it's going to get rid of those two without actually deleting that part of the video. So now if we watch this,
it's like, I want to prove the bullies that said I was a worthless piece of shit in school wrong. It's like, that's some fucking potent fuel.
So now if I watch this back, the editing is actually pretty good. You can see it's framed him quite well. I'm just going to hit save changes on this. It's going to take us back to our clips here. And you can see that it's just going to load for a bit before it actually processes those edits. Now let's try another one. So I'm going to go home. I'm going to click on this icon here. Then I'm going to go over to this Jordan Peterson interview with Chris Williamson. And let's take a listen to this one.
What a stupid way of starting your career.
Well, that goes back to the truth, right? Telling the truth. What are you going to, if you tell a sufficiently seductive lie, what is the best that you can hope for?
Right.
The person that you're telling the lie to falls in love with a projection.
Right, absolutely. Well, when I applied to graduate school, I wrote a crazy admissions letter, and I basically laid out who I was, flaws and all, and what I was interested in.
So this clip has some potential, right? There's some interesting stuff there. And Chris Williamson says a pretty good hook around about here when he says, talking about telling the truth. But then Jordan Peterson gets cut off a little bit early. So let's hit edit this clip. Let's actually muck around with this a little bit. So the first thing we're going to do is like the last one.
Telling the truth. What are you going to, if you tell a sufficiently...
So I think starting at the "if you tell a sufficiently seductive lie" bit is good. So let's set that as a start. And then let's see what that sounds like.
If you tell a sufficiently seductive lie, what is the best that you can hope for?
Right.
The person that you're telling the lie to falls in love with a projection.
Oh, I reckon that was a pretty good intro, but let's actually listen to the outro, right? Remember, it kind of feels like he stops talking mid-sentence. So what we might actually do here is I'm going to click down on my timeline here and grab this and drag it out. And let's see what else he says after that, see if there's a better stopping point. Now let's play this.
I was interested in, and 2 people, 3 people bit. And the one that I
can use my scroll bar down here just to navigate along.
Liked best, partly because he was at McGill and I wanted to be in Montreal, was my...
Cool, so it sounds like it got cut off here again, so let's just drag this out a bit more.
Graduate supervisor Robert Peel, and he knew what he was getting, and we had a great time. I still work with him. I had one of the best relations.
Cool, maybe and I still work with him one. Oh, well, actually, let's extend this out. Just see if there's anything else he says that might be a better ending, but I can hear an ending there that might work. So let's just drag that out a bit further.
Graduate supervisor Robert Peel, and he knew what he was getting. And we had a great time. I still work with him. I had one of the best relationships with Bob that I've ever had with anyone in my life, and it's lasted 4 decades. And it was because Bob's a very honest person. We were very different. He's very practical.
Maybe we can go even further. Let's try, see what goes on. He does waffle a little bit.
He's a very good administrator, a managerial type, although he's super smart. He had an exhaustive knowledge of the relevant research, psychology literature. And I came...
All right, it sounds like he's just going to keep going on for a bit. So maybe we'll just cut it a little bit earlier. So let's see what it says. And we had a great relationship with him. I still work with him. I've had one of the best. I still work with him. Maybe we could stop it here. Let's see what it's like here.
Get it. And we had a great time. I still work with him.
Cool. I think we could probably end it at "I still work with him." So I'm going to select "I" here. I'm going to split and trim. set as end.
Great time. I still work with him. Like,
Let's get rid of this actually.
With him. Like,
there's this bit where he's kind of got his mouth open, but there's like a silence and it hasn't been cut out. Can you kind of see that in the waveforms there? So I might just cut that out manually.
Great time. I still work with him. Like,
so what I can do is I can move the playhead over there, hit split, then select the one that I don't want, hit delete, get rid of that. And now the last thing I want to kind of do is let's just go back to the start of this. And I want to show you an extra feature that you can do, because what they're talking about here is might be a little bit confusing until you have the context. So what I might do is actually add some text on screen just so people immediately know the context of the conversation. So I'm going to go to text, I'm going to go heading text. I might drag this into the center so that it doesn't block the captions like this. And then I'm going to come over to the right hand side and do why you should never lie. I could adjust the background color. For example, I could go black. Can adjust the text color. Let's bring it to white. Font, let's say we go Comic Access. Actually, that's kind of gross. Let's go Poppins. Actually, back to Montserrat. I can make the text bigger and smaller here if I want. I might actually try and make it smaller, see what that looks like. No, let's go 50. Cool. Now that's pretty good. Now if we watch this back.
If you tell a sufficiently seductive lie, what is the best you can hope for?
Right.
You can see that text goes to that.
If you tell a sufficiently seductive lie, what is the best you can hope for?
Right.
Let's drag it out to maybe where Jordan Peterson says right, since that feels like it could be a nice natural transition. And now you can see when this short starts, it shorts with the text banner that adds some context for the viewers.
If you tell a sufficiently seductive lie, what is the best you can hope for?
Right.
The person that you're telling the lie to falls in love with a projection.
Right, absolutely. Well, when I apply...
That's pretty good for me. I think I'm just going to hit save changes. And we're going to be brought back to the dashboard like so. But now let me quickly show you what to actually do with these clips once you've created them. So I'm just going to go home real quick. Let's just go to some of these clips that I've favorited down here, because this is an easy way to keep track of the clips that you actually like. I'm going to go this one. And then what I can do is I just download this short to my computer for uploading. So I can just click on this button. That short is going to start downloading. Or another thing I can do is actually connect my YouTube channel to Opus and post directly from Opus. And I can even post to multiple social media accounts all from one place in Opus. So for example, I can come to this button here. You can see I have a bunch of channels all connected. And what I might do is I'm just going to untick the channels that don't apply to this particular clip. So I'm just going to repost on the Chris Williamson fan pages. And I can either publish them now or I can select a time. So I can come here. Let's say I want to post it on the 25th at 6 a.m. Done, hit schedule on that guy. The task is going to be scheduled. And if I actually come across over here down to my calendar, you can see now that that clip I just created has been scheduled to go live both to the Chris Williamson TikTok and the Chris Williamson YouTube fan faves channel. I guess I just exposed myself as a Chris Williamson fanboy. But yeah, so that's how to use Opus Clip and AI to really drastically speed up your edit time, to create those caption animations, to reorganize the screen and track faces, to actually go through the footage and cut out the individual moments and just do all the stuff that Opus just did for us. Would probably have taken me 3 to 4 times the amount of time it actually just took me to just go and create these clips with Opus. So link to Opus will be down below if you want to check it out. All right, you made it. Congratulations. I know that would have been technical, a headache, pain in the ass at times, but the fact that you made it this far shows that you're probably ahead of 99% of people already. So in terms of next steps, 1, obviously you need to practice all of this. I gave you a gym analogy earlier in the video where you can have all of the knowledge, but if you don't actually put in the reps, you're not going to see any gains. But the other thing I want to bring up is, especially if you're editing videos for your own YouTube channel, the biggest lever in whether or not your video will get views is actually the video idea itself. You could have the best editing skills in the world. But if the core idea, the core topic of your video is inherently uninteresting, then you're always going to be in a position where you're just polishing a turd. We don't want that. Everything is downstream. Everything, including your thumbnails, your titles, your editing, your hooks, is all downstream from your video idea. So on screen, I'm going to link a video that's going to walk you through step by step how to actually come up with data-proven viral video ideas. So when you set out to actually create and edit something, you know there are going to be people who actively want to watch that content. So I'll link that up on screen. Again, thanks so much for being here. I hope this was helpful for you. I'll see you in that video.